Rocky, Rocky Digati. What's up?
Hey, hey, hey.
How we doing?
We are doing well. Hello from beautiful southern New Jersey.
Mm. I didn't tell you this
Uh-oh.
in the first time that we had our conversation, but not only am I familiar with where you are as far as Rhode Island, I'm familiar with South Jersey because I lived in Brigantine
Right,
for.
that's
for
about an hour away
Mhm. Actually, we
or
did talk
so.
about it. Yeah, we did talk about it.
Yeah, Brigantine's and I live in South New Jersey now, but I am originally from a little peninsula in Narragansett Bay known as Bristol, Rhode Island, which nobody knows about unless you are interested in attending Roger Williams University because that's there. But
I noticed that Rhode Island, when I went to school there, when I went to Johnson and Wales,
that's
there
right.
was like 70 different colleges inside of that tiny little state.
Oh yeah, there's a lot going on, and it's kind of interesting. Like one of the things I always found was interesting is up in northwestern Rhode Island, a town called I believe it's Smithfield. At
Mhm.
that point, is Bryant College, and that for the longest time was where the Patriots used to practice.
Oh, really?
hmm
When they were not as good?
Look, man, I survived the Grogan years. Okay,
My God,
I have been a fan of the New England Patriots since Jim Plunkett was the quarterback. So that was
my
even
Lord,
before your glorious
Dan Marie,
undefeated season in '72.
Dan Marino.
Oh yeah.
I got to meet him. I am very lucky. When I moved to Las Vegas about 6 years ago, I had a job. My first job here was I don't even know how I got it. A liaison between sports stars and the stores that they sign
Oh
memorabilia
okay.
with. Right. So I would spend 8 hours a day with Mike Tyson in a room. It was just me, him, and a couple of people. Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, Dan Marino, Emmett Smith, all my heroes. I'm a huge football fan. Bobby Hull from hockey.
Oh sure.
Ric Flair, not Ric Flair.
That
So
had to be
all
exhausting.
I don't even know how he gets that kind of energy. He's an older man now, and he
Yeah,
is
right.
woo. He is all
Yeah,
about
yeah,
it.
that's a lot of woo. That's a lot
My
of woo. I
Lord.
never got into wrestling, and it's funny because the Stronghold's not that far from where I'm from.
Mhm.
It's from I think they're in Stamford, Connecticut, which is a couple of hours from where I grew up, and it's sort of
Mhm.
like something I pass through on the way when I go and visit back home. And I never got into wrestling. It was basically like a soap opera for boys.
It is, and it's the closest we have. What's up, Rocksteady? How you doing?
Rock
Welcome,
steady.
Rocksteady.
Yeah.
Rocksteady is a dear friend of mine. We had a podcast called Shotgun Candy together
Hey, hey, hey.
for a good part of mostly a year, and it was awesome, super irreverent and funny. And he's from Australia. He's in Perth.
Oh, fantastic.
Yep, yep.
So it's like,
Awesome
I
dude.
don't know, next week there now? I
It's
don't know how that works.
2069 over
It
there.
is. I'm telling you.
Mhm.
And I think it was the comedian Lewis Black, and this is no disrespect to anyone from the oceanic states, but who said something along the lines of if the good people of Australia and New Zealand have anything they want me to see, they need to move it closer. So it's I don't like to fly. All
Yeah.
right. I fly all the time.
Mhm.
I do it because it's necessary. I just don't like it. So like I'm the only person I know who has to take like a 2.5 hour flight to Fort Myers with like, 4 Benadryl and 2 tiny wine.
A
Just
little
to,
airplane bottle.
yeah, the little tiny wine, those little nips, and I get off the plane and I'm still wired. Because I hate to fly. And it's not
Yeah,
like everybody's like, oh, you're afraid to crash. It's not that I'm so much afraid to crash. It's just like, you breathe in everybody else's air. It's totally claustrophobic. And
that's a good
the
point.
the times that I see that if you were gonna fly to some place like Australia, because you got to make multiple stops in lots of unpronounceable places before you can get there,
It's
it
true.
just sounds like an endurance run.
Yeah. I've never been on a plane that long, and that
Yeah,
scares me.
I don't know if I could do it. Now maybe I could. Maybe I'd have to like upgrade from like tiny wine and Benadryl to I don't know.
Ambien and heroin.
I was thinking more like, sodium pentothal, but okay.
Just a little jab in the neck.
I'd need to
Good. I'll
be
see you
like
in
completely anesthetized, but
14 hours.
everything I've ever seen there is beautiful. The only thing, and I'd love to hear from Rocksteady on this, is that it seems that the whole of the wildlife in Australia, even in your general backyard, pretty much is out to get you.
we've had this conversation so many times, and you're not. Yeah, I mean, it's the number one thing you think about when you think about Australia. Because I don't know about you, I look through YouTube Shorts and Reels and all this types of stuff, and it's like this Australian spider can decapitate you. You know,
2
like, oh
words,
my god.
huntsman spider,
Yeah,
not happening.
yeah.
I see you can see its
Sure.
face. That thing's huge.
Yeah.
Who wants to see its face? That's just terrifying. But I wanna say the late Steve Irwin had a show where he was, like, literally just, like, mucking around his house
Hmm.
and going in the backyard, and the kids were little then, and he's, like, moving a picture in his house, and there's a huntsman spider beneath it, and I'm like, "Oh, Jesus."
Yeah.
And then he
So,
goes out in the backyard, flips over a rock, and there's a scorpion. I'm like, "Oh, no." And,
oh my
you go
god.
in the ocean, and there's this little tiny, adorable, cute little octopus that's, like, chock full of neurotoxins.
Yep. And you just want to pet it. You just like it's so beautiful. It's turning
It's
into
so
different things for
cute.
you. It's
Yeah,
blending into
instant
the rocks. It's
death.
gorgeous. They have the most gorgeous, most killer things. And right, Rocksteady?
But I gotta tell you, I have met more than a couple of people. I'm originally from, as I said, Rhode Island, and especially during the when it was in the peak sailing years, we had a lot of folks coming up, especially the year that the Australia 2 won the cup, which was 1984, the America's Cup. And
Yep.
I have never met anybody from Australia that I didn't like.
Oh, hard to. Yeah. We have
Well,
several.
actually, no, there was one person, my friend's ex-wife, not so much. But other than that, everybody normal that I've met from Australia.
And even then, it wasn't that much. It was just like, I could take it or later.
Yeah, not a fan.
Okay.
But they were fun people.
He said, wait until you meet me.
Wait until you meet me. Okay.
He is,
Challenge accepted.
he's a handful. Let me tell you. He's a man. They call him the Joe Rogan of Australia. That's how good he is.
Yeah, buddy, get a look at me. I'm 2 handfuls, okay?
I just gotta look. Oh wow, that's exactly his humor too. So you're gonna get that. Yeah, you will love him. You will love him.
I heard a great joke about Australia. I did. I did. What does drinking Fosters and making love in a canoe have in common?
I have no idea.
They're both fucking close to water. Buddy, if you have big hands, let me tell you what every woman thinks when they hear that. You have big gloves,
Big gloves, just like big socks,
big
right?
socks, big
Yeah.
shoes,
Big shoes, big feet.
big feet, big shoes.
In your experience, is any of that true?
Oh, so we're gonna go right to the dick. Okay, fair enough. Anyway, so actually, no, it is not. I can say that while I have not had the type of experience that would have me in the thousands, or I don't have like a Wilt Chamberlain pass or anything. But I'm gonna be 55 years old in August. I actually tell people my age,
Mhm.
and so I've been around, and I gotta tell you, and plus I was in EMT because you see all kinds of weird trauma naked stuff, and I don't think that's a gauge. The hands and feet are not a gauge.
Okay. Because some say like the top of your finger, and then how if you can put it down here, and then like that width if you have a super long like middle finger.
That gets people trying to find a way to get somebody into bed. That's all that is.
Yeah, I guess so. You're right about that.
I will say this much. Beware of skinny, wiry guys. That trend I've
Those
noticed.
guys have huge dicks. Yep.
Ladies, you're gonna back me up. You see a skinny, wiry guy, beware.
That guy's
Be
got a
ready.
big old dick. Yeah. Us
Yeah,
us husky ones are we hold our own. It's more about the thickness, not about the length. Anyhow, I have an Aussie joke. Why did
girth is
all the
important.
koalas get chlamydia? Why did all the koalas get chlamydia?
Why did all the? I do not know. Oh,
Because Rocksteady's screwing the
lovely.
species. Oh man, he's got it. You open the door to this, and now this is where it's
And
gonna
this is
be.
where he was. He's
This is where
walking
we
through.
are.
He's walking through Aussie style.
Yep, he's awesome. He's awesome. You can go back. Actually, like anybody can. But if you want to actually hear his voice, he can leave a message. Of course, he can leave messages. Um, that as always. And if you want to hear his voice a little bit more, you can hear us on the Rocksteady on the Shotgun Candy podcast. That's
I
linked
still want to go
to my
rock
YouTube.
steady.
Yeah, yeah. And obviously his theme song is
Rock
"When We
steady.
Began to Rock."
Oh, there you go.
Steady.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got a nice little voice there on you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I used it for a while. Hey, let's see. This is Dave Watson, my very good friend Dave from the Married Couple podcast. Sorry. Checking in. What's up? What's up, guys? Yeah, you're checking in. You're checking in all right, all the way in. All the way in. Cool. This is Raquel. Rocky Digati. You can
Did
call
you
her
just say
Rocky.
Raquel? Every Cuban relative you have is gonna like pinch you the next time they see you for
What is
saying
it?
Raquel.
What is it?
You don't know how to say that name?
Raquel?
In English, Raquel.
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 Raquelita.
Raquel. Do you know one of the things like okay, if you have an unusual ethnic name, okay. The reason I have such an ethnic name,
I don't think that's
my
very
my
ethnic.
dad's family's from Sicily, my mom's from Portugal.
Mhm.
So, and it's funny, everybody looks at me, but you have red hair. Like that's somehow exclusive. My grandfather from Portugal had red hair and blue eyes. But anyway, so and I have two older sisters. And my mom had me when she was 40. My mom's 95 years old. So
Wow.
yeah, she's amazing. And she can kick all of our asses. And and,
Bless her.
and she's fantastic. I want to be her when I grow up. And so, she the thing was is that my dad figured there was no deity harsh enough to give him three daughters. So he was pretty convinced that it was going to be, a son. So he and my mom are arguing over boy names. My dad wanted to name me Baldessario. And my mom, and mind you, this is before the movie because this is in 1967, 68.
Say it
This
again.
my dad wanted to name me Baldessario
Baldasario.
after I guess he's an Italian philosopher,
Wow, it's like
and
a fucking wizard.
right, they called you Baldy,
Of
that's
course.
what
I
it
mean, you start
was.
thinking about those names, you're like, okay, what are they really going to
And
call
then
her?
my mom, because she's like oppressively Catholic, wanted to name me after the Saint Father Damien, and this was before the Omen. This is before all that came out. So basically, either way, I was going to get stuffed in a locker. But so they're arguing about that. And so my sister, who was 9, my eldest sister, said, "If it's a girl baby, can I name it?" Yeah, sure, kid, you can name it, because it was going to be a boy, and they were arguing over the
Mhm.
names. Well, surprise, because in those days there was no gender reveal. That's gotten a little out of hand, by the way. And there
Right?
was no gender reveal. There was none of that. The gender reveal was, oh, surprise, here you go. And then you just checked if there was a stem on the apple, and you knew.
What
And
is it?
so
It's a girl. All right.
yeah,
That's
there
it.
you go. And I actually my dad once said to my cousin who was talking about witnessing the birth of his kids, he's just sort of looking at him with the cigarette and the beer in his hand, and he just kind of looks at him and exhales this huge cloud of smoke. He goes, "When all three my kids were born, I was in the bar like nature intended, waiting for the phone call."
Waiting for a phone call with a big jug of wine. I
Yeah, they
mean,
didn't.
coffee.
Yeah, well, for him, beer. But anyway, so yeah, when I get born, my sister says I want to name the baby Rachel, and my
That's,
dad
yeah, it's a bit
winces.
less ethnic, yeah?
And he was just like, "Yeah," and he just kinda sorta was thinking, "Yeah, I'm thinking that's a little too Hebrew to go with such a Mediterranean name."
Right.
And he was just like, and so my grandmother from Portugal basically says, "I'm surprised at both you, and you especially, Linda." Linda's my mom. And she says, "Don't you know that in Portuguese, Italian, Spanish, Rachel is Raquel?"
Raquel.
And we all got our middle names from the saint day we were born on. I was born on St. Helen's Day, so they converted that one too. So it's Raquel Elena. And my dad couldn't say Raquel quite right. My mom made fun of him. And so at 3 hours old, he just said, "It's my Rocky." And I've been
What?
Rocky ever since.
Just out of curiosity, how did he pronounce Raquel?
Raquel.
Raquel. Kind of like I
Raquel. And my mom was
did.
like, "That's not how you say it." My mom is if you know any people, my mom's family's from the Azores,
Yeah.
and they're a very earthy, critical people.
Yeah.
And they can be kind of pointed. It's a crazy place to be from. Where I'm from in southeastern New England is inundated with Azorean immigrants,
1000%. I know
because
many.
of the boat building, the fishing trade. There's a lot of commercial fishing there.
Mhm.
So I grew up very much ensconced in that whole ethnic thing. I do understand. I used to speak Portuguese pretty well,
Mhm.
but I got to tell you, you don't use it, you lose. You really do lose it.
Tell me about it.
And I
Yeah.
answered in English. I was that shitty kid that did that.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah. I told you the story. Thank God my grandma kind of kept it alive because
that's for
if she
sure.
if she wouldn't have, she was like, "There's only Spanish going to be spoken in this house," and thank God, because if not, I would have lost it. And then one generation later, you have
And
more
then
kids, and it's over.
you said Raquel.
Raquel, I know. I've been on the West Coast so long. What's up, Raquel?
What's up, Raquel?
One of
Yeah,
those, dude, bro.
yeah.
So we got a couple
Dude.
of messages coming in, and a little bit more, a little bit unique about the show is that we're going to listen to people on the fly here. And
Oh, I'm
here's
psyched for
Rocksteady.
that.
Yo, what's going on, guys? Midnight Media. Welcome to the guest. What's going on, Rocky? That's I
Hey,
like your name,
hey,
by the way.
Rocksteady.
It's pretty cool. I just want to drop in and say hi. I'm going to listen to the show. I'm going to give plenty of banter, and obviously there's serious moments where maybe that I won't. But if we're playing around, baby, we're going to play around.
I like his style.
That's my boy. We play around for a show. Let's see. We got we have the Married Couple podcast checking in.
Hey, what's going on, AC? What is going on, Raquel? I know how to say it. Hey, nice to meet you. I can't wait for this show. I mean, it's already started, so I'm going to go back and listen to it shortly. Also, tomorrow's show, make sure you let us know where we can find that. I heard you're going to be on Raquel's podcast, so let us know. Anyway, have a great night, and you guys are awesome.
Thank you.
And Rocksteady, what's the end of that koala joke? Chlamydia one. What's the end?
He gave the world chlamydia. That was it. He shared the clap with everyone.
He's apparently the source vector of koala chlamydia.
He's the patient zero of koala.
Patient zero.
Koala clap.
Of the koala clap.
So, great question, Dave. Yes. So, might as well let the cat out of the bag. I was on Rocky's podcast called the Macabre World Podcast about a week ago, and she's going to post that tonight at midnight. Nothing to do with the name, but it's super ironic that she's doing that. Now she's going to put that up, but I'm also going to tonight put up the video part of it. So I have that, and you'll have a way to see that or to just listen. So that's
actually, it's going to be Thursday night, 9 p.m. 9 p.m. Pacific and midnight Eastern, because I'm on Eastern. We're way past my bedtime now.
I know. So we'll try to move it along.
Oh, please.
But yeah, we'll do that. It was awesome collaborating.
It's such a strain.
Yeah, that was awesome. We had an awesome talk. I loved it.
We did. We had a terrific talk because, it's funny. I can't claim to be Latin because Portuguese people are not considered Latino, which is weird because we're surrounded by Spain.
But would you consider Brazilians that speak Portuguese to be Latino?
They're on a different hemisphere. Apparently, it's Latino to some degree is geographic.
Right.
Or it's language of origin. They speak Portuguese, but they are in what could be considered, South America is all like Latin America. So yes, they are. And I had a great grandfather that was Brazilian, which was really funny because his last name is Laranja, which means orange, like
L'orange.
The fruit. Laranja, yeah. However, he grew pineapples, so there's a confused guy.
Le pinaple.
Pinaple.
That would have been Le pinaple.
I grow too much. Tomatoes. I just planted my tomatoes and potatoes in the backyard.
All right. Let's see. Tomatoes and potatoes.
Tomatoes and potatoes.
I think we have some more live messages.
Hi, everybody. It's your boy Arnold. I can't wait for today's show on the Midnight Media, everybody.
Thank you.
But my wife, unfortunately, pisses me off. She can say to me, Arnold, why you leave the toilet seat up? Why you leave the toilet seat up? So I sharp her.
Wow.
Hi, everybody. It's your...
Wow. Holy crap. Well, thanks. I mean, the very great and powerful Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Well, have you seen Maria Shriver? She's turning into her mother.
Yeah, it's rough.
And, I can see if he leaves the toilet seat, she's going to drown.
She is, man.
She's going right in.
She's in. She's like the little toilet. What was it back in the day? The toilet, the bowl man, the
tidy bowl man in the boat. Yes, I remember him. I love old commercials.
Hell yeah.
Best old commercial, and you guys should look this up on YouTube, is commercials for a cologne called High H-A-I Karate.
High Karate?
High Karate was the name of a cologne, and it was basically you're going to be a knockout with the women, and it was the most violent commercials of men having to fight off the women using this Don Knotts style karate. It was great. High Karate. Oh, we had the best commercials. I mean, going up in the 70s, we had the best commercial. We had Joe Namath wearing pantyhose.
So I just did. So my first,
better than that.
My
really,
second,
it doesn't.
My first step. No, my third. I did it with Dave. Dave was my guest on where we looked at old commercials and problematic commercials. Do you remember the? So we did the Joe Namath one. I've brought up the High Karate one, so we're going to watch that now. And
cool.
yeah, and Do you remember one with an Indian, an American Indian that would come out of like the forest, and then like this group of like teenagers would come and like throw litter
Wiener,
like at his feet, and then he would look at the camera and it was like
the tier.
one tear. That was the
Yes.
best. That was like
And if
fucked
I'm
up.
remembering correctly, the gentleman in that commercial was oh gosh, I used to know his name. I'm not positive he's actually Native American.
No, we looked it
He's an
up.
actor.
He's
Yeah.
like from Long Island. He's like, yeah, he's not even close to that. No, we looked
No,
it up.
and I want to say he's Italian.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
that dude looks like he has a pork, a
But
pork.
but his last name might be something, or his stage name is something like Floyd Red Cloud or something like that.
Something like that, because I mean he pulls it off pretty
Yeah.
well. But so before we take a look at all that, I think Rocksteady wants to jumpstart the show because he's interested. How long have you been podcasting for?
Okay, I have been podcasting. My podcast debuted. Actually, I'm only going on about a year and a half. It debuted in March of last year, and it's been going well. I've had some really interesting people. I've been very lucky to run into a lot of interesting people. But some of the folks that I've had on Nico Clo, who is known as the Vampire of Paris. He is a self-professed cannibal, and he was at one time doing time for murder. He is now out. I learned something very interesting. You got to listen to the podcasts in the first season. And you can listen to the podcast at www.darkerartstudio.com. You'll see the podcast. You'll get a chance to look at what I make, which is human bone jewelry. So, we're
gonna get into that. I want to save the human
yes.
bone jewelry, and I also want to save the kind of the convention that you were just at now.
Yes.
I think that goes hand in hand, and I think that's super interesting. But yeah, tell us more about the guests that you had, because I know
I've had
even Jim
Nico.
Morrison's kids, right?
I did. I had Jim Morrison's. I didn't have his kid. I had his granddaughter on, and a lot of people were like, "Wait a minute, he didn't have kids." Yeah, he did. He had a son, and his name is Cliff Morrison. And there's a gentleman out in California named Floyd Bocox, who has written a book called Morrison Land, which is about Cliff and Cliff's story and his encounters with Cliff. And he and a fella named Al Bowman had put together a music showcase, because Al Bowman does the Los Angeles Music Awards. And if you listen to Cliff Morrison and his music and you look at pictures of him, there is absolutely no doubt in your mind as to his patrilineal lineage, his lineage. But he had a daughter, and she was on, and the whole story is just crazy. The players that are in it, and the people that are involved, and the legacy that is left was really interesting. And I kind of stumbled into it because I was looking for a death hoax. Because you know how when you have these dead, icons, sooner or later, somebody's going to say that they saw them at the Circle K or some such, And because I mean, I think there's reports that Elvis is like a gardener at Graceland or
I've heard
something.
a few things like that, but I've also heard that he's down in Miami. I've also heard that he's actually one of his own like impersonators as well.
Now, see, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, if he was one of his own impersonators and he wanted to get lost in the crowd, he'd go to Vegas, wouldn't he?
He would. Well, that's
Y'all
also
are
it's
lousy
also,
with that stuff.
I will tell you this: the third part of our podcast, Shotgun Candy, is with a very good friend of ours. His name is Elvis the King, and he is. If you go back, it's really interesting. So it was me, Rocksteady. Like Rocksteady looks like me. We look very much alike, but an Australian version of me. So it's pretty cool. But then the third person was Elvis the King, and he was just a silhouette, one of his 27 different characters. He's an absolutely brilliant and astute comedian, and just I don't know, what do you say, like a student of the world, just a really intelligent sponge of a guy. And he was part of our thing. So it's funny that we have, it was two of us and an Elvis impersonator. So I know exactly what you mean.
Oh yeah,
spent a lot of time with Elvis.
I spent a lot of time with Elvis.
A lot of time.
And so I was looking initially for information if that. Now there is a theory that Jim Morrison is alive, that he faked his death, and that he is alive and well and living in Oregon.
Is that the leading?
That is the leading theory. And
why Oregon?
I don't know. There is a gentleman out in Oregon who now I can't say that I'm convinced 100% either way. I can't say no, but I can't say yes. It's like I kind of, I won't have this opportunity, but I would want to meet him and talk to him. But there is some very striking and odd similarities. Jim Morrison's face. I'm an artist and I draw faces, on occasion. And the face of the gentleman in Oregon, his name is, if you Google it, Jim Morrison, William Lawyer, LAWOR, YOR, and
Okay.
yeah, and Bill Lawyer, LOYER, Bill Lawyer, and William Lawyer, and Jim Morrison. You'll see there's somebody did a progression of the young Jim Morrison and the 1990s William Lawyer, and there are a couple of facial features that are very difficult, I think, to ignore. Jim Morrison had a slight droop to his left eye. It's present in all the photographs, and a lot of people, nobody's really that symmetrical.
Even the very famous one where he has his arms outstretched for the original Doors album, you can totally
Yes,
see that.
the Annie Leibovitz
Hmm.
photo sessions. And then if you look at this guy, he's got the droop, but that's not that unique of a facial characteristic. But there's a bilateral break in Jim Morrison's nose. It's almost got kind of a crunch and crunch in the center of his nose. And this gentleman has that, and the unique jaw and lip line matches exactly. So it is interesting. It's intriguing to me.
Absolutely.
And it's funny because one of the person that I was connected to when I was researching this, because I was like, I need to talk to somebody about this, and so hopefully that's going to be coming up in the summertime. I'm going to hopefully talk to a gentleman who worked and lived with him. But one of the things that my contact said, he said, he doesn't do interviews, and I said, okay, but you know what? I said,
I
if
wonder
you were
why.
if he were the really Trulio Jim Morrison and he was right in front of me, the only thing I could think of to say to him would be thank you, because
Thousand
I
percent.
am a huge fan. I
Mm.
I love his poetry. I love his music, and I think that whether it's him or it's not, whether he faked his death or not, Jim Morrison on a whole has given us all a gift, and I don't think he owes me anything at this point. So
Right. Right.
I'm just
Same.
grateful for
Same.
what I've gotten. Yeah, it's a huge catalog of brilliant work.
Imagine you finding that a beloved and transcendent artist has been, and only you finding, and only you knowing and confirming that this person is that person. Imagine that feeling of like
Oh
actually
god,
meeting
yeah,
someone and be
that'd
like,
be
"You are,
amazing.
I'm the only person that knows that this transcendent artist is alive." It would be incredible.
I there's the most fanciful and romantic part of me wants it to be real, because I feel that the idea and he was insane and brilliant, as many are, and excess. I felt he was the Percy Shelley of our
Mm.
lifetime, because he really, his poetry actually I thought was somewhat reminiscent of Shelley, but that whole excess and decadence and everything that he did,
Yeah.
he really did remind me of Percy Shelley, and I hate the idea that he went out in a bathtub.
It's hard for us to reconcile our heroes dying the way that, I mean, a banana and peanut butter nanner sandwich on the toilet is not a good way to go either.
Right on the
Um,
Bishadul.
I mean, come on, right on the throne. I mean, the
You know,
king
it
should have done
that
it.
was a great scene in The Sopranos, and it was one of those scenes that had me rolling off the couch because I hadn't heard that word since my grandmother was alive.
Yeah,
You know how that Paulie Walnuts was like the Greek chorus of The Sopranos.
he's awesome.
It's a tremendous character, and David Chase's use of the character and his commentary was just brilliant.
Brilliant.
And they're all at the funeral, and they're all just kind of standing around, and the opening bell at any funeral is, "He looks good." Somebody always says it.
The
And that's like
Italians.
the opening round. Yeah,
Yeah.
he looks good. Oh, no, the Portuguese do it too. He looks good. And Paulie Walnuts goes, man, what a way to go. Right on the pishadul.
Right on the pishadul, but
Right
only
on
he
the
could have said it.
pishadul.
Only
Yeah.
he
And
could have
I
said
was
it.
just like, oh my
Stevie
God.
Van Zandt, right?
No, it was actually Tony Sirico, may he rest in
Oh,
peace.
of course.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Paulie Walnuts. Paulie Walnuts was
Yeah,
the
Paulie
Greek
Walnuts.
chorus.
Of course.
If you rewatch it with that in your mind, you'll realize that he gives a lot of sort of observational.
Credibility, right?
Yes.
Like, he's no one else other than that guy. He might be a little less than that guy, but he's that guy. And that was
Yeah,
the beauty of that
it's
show.
always interesting to see actors that play themselves. Like when I saw and Courtney Love in what was the movie?
Man on the Moon?
No, the one where about Larry Flint,
Oh, the People versus
People
Larry
versus
Flint.
Larry Flint, And I took one look at the miserable character she played, and I'm like, nah, that's real.
That's real. That's too
Yeah.
easy to tap into, right? That's like,
Yeah. Not a stretch.
yeah. She doesn't have to get ready for that.
No.
Give me a minute. I gotta get into character. You are that bitch.
Yeah, that's who you are.
Yeah,
But it's crazy. So yeah, listen to especially episode 1
definitely.
of the Jim Morrison podcast. There's some very
Yep.
interesting observations about the 27 Club that
Yeah,
caused me to have to put a legal disclaimer on the
some of my listeners would
podcast.
absolutely love that. We're totally into that. And I started part 1, and part 2 is coming up.
You
That's
notice there was a disclaimer on it?
yeah,
There's a reason
yeah.
for that. Yeah, we didn't
Mhm.
get to that part.
Right in the beginning, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But when you get to the part that required it, you're gonna be like, oh my goodness.
Allegedly, a lot of allegedly.
There's a lot of alleged. Yeah, did you hear me trying to keep my ass out of hot water?
For sure. Of course. And that's part of doing this, right? Is like to kind of uncover some truths. Maybe we're lucky enough to hear something new that no one else has heard before. But at the same time, how do you corroborate these things? And you have to be like almost an investigative reporter.
I don't think it's really a stretch to think that Jim Morrison laid some pipe on the groupies.
Fuck no. No,
Oh
he
God.
definitely
That's sort
as
of
a
like
kid.
your God-given right as a rock star to be able to like stick it wherever you want.
If you
And
don't do that, you're weird.
pretty much. So, I don't think the idea that, I don't think it's too far of a stretch that he had it. But I do think it's a bit to say that he's still alive. And I'd like to believe it.
Yeah, I want to
do
believe
think-
too.
I want to believe. In fact, actually, he's a native Floridian, if not mistaken.
I
Melbourne,
believe
Florida.
so. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And he also got arrested in Florida as well.
In Miami, yeah.
Miami. Yeah.
Well,
one of
that
his
was he
victims.
had some charges. I don't know if it was Miami or New Haven. That was the later charges that were like kind of hanging over his head right around the time of his death,
Yeah.
or his alleged
Alleged. You know he's still alive.
alleged. death.
Allegedly. Let's talk about this, because this is one of the things that we talked about, and you kind of suggested her to be a guest here on Midnight Media. What tell me about Susan Munson.
Suzanne
Munson.
Munson.
Yeah.
Suzanne Munson is a delightful human. She is an author and a professor, and she works at she is out of the University of Virginia. She's a Jeffersonian scholar, and the University of Virginia, for those who may not know this little bit of trivia, was actually founded by Thomas Jefferson. So there is no greater Jeffersonian street cred than being a scholar at the University of Virginia, a Jeffersonian scholar. And she was on my podcast in the first season, and she wrote a book called The Metaphysical Thomas Jefferson. And Suzanne Munson's book is based on the fact that when Suzanne lost her husband, she ended up talking to someone who would recommend that she visit a medium. And she visited a medium, and her experience with the medium was, she said she felt she really truly made a connection, that the medium knew things that only her husband would have known. So she had a great experience. And it occurred to her, and I have no idea why no one's really moved on this, that if the medium was able to contact her husband, would the medium be able to contact, say, I don't know, Thomas Jefferson?
A founding father.
Right. And so she ended up working with the medium, and it was really funny how she put it. She says, my colleagues probably wouldn't have gone for this. So she sort of like blindly put out the question of, if Thomas Jefferson were alive and you can have a conversation with him today, what kinds of questions would you ask him? So she, through talking to friends and colleagues, compiled this list of questions. And her book is the transcriptions of the answers to said questions, categorized in different chapters from the medium and from Thomas Jefferson via the medium. And, I realize that not there are some people that are just like, just rolling their eyes and calling bullshit right now. And that's fine. I don't expect.
It's hard not to question it.
Sure. And, I think it's healthy to question it. But if you were going to take the leap of faith and realize this isn't some, I don't want to like insult the hippy dippy Ramalama ding dong people, but if,
Ramalama ding dongs.
That's a dear friend of mine had a beautiful Eastern thought kind of bookstore in Bristol called Be Here Now, Karen, I Love You. I always will. She's my other mother. And that's what my dad used to call her, the Ramalama Ding Dong. My dad was a little bit politically incorrect.
All our dads.
Yeah, all our dad. It's like part of being a dad.
Yeah.
So, but she is. This is a scholar. This is a serious scholar, and her sincerity is very compelling.
Is she a believer otherwise? Like, was she a believer
No,
before that? Is this
not
just
really.
purely academia
Well, it
eating the
was through her
metaphysical?
personal experience with the medium where she
Right.
felt that she connected with her husband, and it was like, okay,
But never before is what I mean. Like, it wasn't just like
right. It wasn't a thing before that, and I think that actually lends more credence to
of
the work
course.
she's done. But it's a fun read, and it was a really terrific conversation, and she's a delightful lady. But I think that's really cool because like I have questions for dead people.
Definitely.
I have questions like, okay, Lizzie Borden,
Yeah.
what the hell happened there?
The fuck is going on here?
The hell was
Yeah.
going on there? I don't think she did it.
No, I think
I
it was a
do
frame
not
job.
think Lizzie Borden. No, well, there's a few players that they kind of like leave out of the mainstream because it's really fun just to blame Lizzie.
Sure.
First of all, Lizzie
She's become a
was
pop culture icon now.
it has, and you know what, Lizzie, if we knew her today, and this is well documented, probably would have registered on the spectrum. Lizzie was a little bit out of the mainstream as far as how she processed and worked things. She would not have been somebody that I think would have been, you know, in the mindset to be able to do that. Also, her sister is the one who controlled all the money afterwards. Her sister was the executrix of the will.
Ah,
And we're talking about at the time, Andrew Borden was like stupid Bill Gates rich
right.
for that time frame. So, you know, she wouldn't have controlled the money firsthand. Her sister would. Her uncle, John Vinicum Morse, was seen in and around it, as was his carriage in the neighborhood. And John Morse, he was actually Mrs. Borden that died in the famous murders was not Lizzie's and Emma's mother. That was their stepmother.
No.
John Morse is their biological mother's brother, so he kind of has an axe to grind against the old guy.
It's like Succession.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
yeah. So yeah, that's actually the second Mrs. Borden
Holy
that
shit.
died in the infamous Lizzie Borden murders.
Right.
And then there's also a half brother. His name was William Borden Hathaway. He was always seen in and around the area, and he was kind of on the outs because of his unscrupulous lineage there
Right.
of being the love child of Andrew Borden and his mom. And he had a really unusual occupation. He was a butcher.
Oh.
So walking
I wonder-
about covered
how that-
in blood on his
wonder-
apron, that's pretty normal.
I wonder how that ties into everything.
So, there's some interest, and they never really found the murder weapon. If you go to the Fall River Historical Society, they have a beautiful display there. And if they you can see it, it's a hatchet with like a broken handle. And to see they have the skulls there as well.
Okay. Of the
And to
victims.
see the impact, yeah, and to see the impact and the thing. First of all, Lizzie was my size actually. She was 5'2". I'm so I just sound tall. I'm really short. I'm a wee person, but and actually, if you were to Google a picture of Lizzie Borden Young, there at the time. I actually resemble her. I look like her. And so I'm told. I mean, the lady who I loved it. You go into these old New England historical societies. This was back in the 80s when I went in and I first got interested in the case because I had taken a course with Dr. Paul Fletcher, who was a wonderful Borden scholar and a teacher at the BCC in Fall River. And I went in there and she was Florence Brigham, and she has left us now, but she lived to be like 1,000 years old. And yeah, if you look at the picture that is to the right, where she's looking off to the right, and she's got her.
This one?
Yes. Watch this.
Are you Lizzie Borden? I have to ask you.
And she was auburn haired,
Right.
and about my height and stature, which freaked out my mom and wouldn't let me near the sharp stuff after that.
You are the reincarnation of her, and this is.
I don't think so, though.
No.
Because but yeah, and so Florence Brigham was just like said to the college manservants. I mean, when you go into these old New England historical societies, you're gonna find ladies there that like remember the shit firsthand. They're like 9,000 years old.
I was there.
And she had that great like Katharine Hepburn way of old Yankee talking. Like she was just like, bring down that portrait of Lizzie from the attic.
Oh, kind of like.
And she's talking to like her like college manservant, and
Bring down the.
and she brought down this portrait, and it wasn't that one, but it was one from a similar era. And she was just like, you have the same color eyes as she did. They were the color of sand and sea.
Oh my god!
And I was just like, oh wow.
Great, I'm leaving.
And she knew her. This is what was great. I'm talking to a woman in the Historical Society who actually knew Lizzie Borden, because her backyard and the backyard of where Lizzie eventually lived out the rest of her life, which was Maplecroft, up on the hill up in the Highlands. She says she used to hand me pears over the fence, and I'm just like, wow. Okay, so you knew her.
You
Okay.
touched her probably,
Fair point.
which is crazy.
Right?
Crazy.
You touched
Lizzie Borden.
You touched Lizzie
A 5'2" axe murderer, which seems implausible. You know,
It does. All of that makes no sense to me.
right?
And there's also another thing where they said if you're at the top of the stairs, she was at the top of the stairs when her father came home, and she was giggling, and they were saying, well, yeah, but at that time when her father came home, the stepmother had already been dead for 2 hours, and the bedroom where the stepmother lay was to her right.
Mhm.
And so there was some, conjecture that's saying, she was up at the top of the stairs. She had to have known. Now, I stood at the top of the stairs, and the folks that have done the Lizzie Borden B&B have done an amazing job recreating the house. And I will tell you, at my height, I can't see over the bed. So if there was somebody on the floor in between the bed and the dresser, from that vantage point, you would not be able to see
It just
there.
come on.
But it was August,
and it's a
and she's
big old
dead for 2
It's a
hours.
big old
How
hatchet.
did she not smell
Right?
it?
Was it a hatchet? Was it a humongous hatchet? What?
Well, they a hatch or an axe is the concept, but the thing is if you look at this, the skulls were definitely cleaved with something, and I use the word cleave on purpose because I'm going to remind you that her stepbrother,
Butcher.
her half brother, was a butcher. The marks. I mean, and I'm not a forensic analyst, but if you look at the marks on the skulls and you look at the skulls, first of all, they're just bashed the hell in. There's no way.
Blunt force.
And blunt force at that point in time. I mean, I'm trying to think of now. Believe you me, I've been mad. Oh, I've been angry.
Been that mad.
I have ginger snapped, man. I have. Okay, I'm not a violent woman, and even though I don't think, considering how hard the human skull was, I could muster up. It would have to be an incredible force of swing.
Right.
Now, somebody on adrenaline, who knows what they're
Sure.
capable of? You can see a woman, a tiny woman, lift a car off a
Sure.
child because she's got the adrenaline going. But I think that it's more plausible that someone bigger and stronger did
True.
that.
That makes a lot of sense. Lizzie Borden. Let's see. Rocksteady left us one. Let's see.
So it's cool to hear. It's a bit about you there, Rocky. Like, yeah, I mean, I think you might have that same passion of what us guys do for podcasting. We love it. And you look like you're a pro at it as well. What do you love most out of it? What do you love most out of doing your shows and podcasting specifically? And also, human bones, where on earth do you get those from? It's probably an important question to ask right now, AC. Just be careful, bro. I got your back.
Yeah, I was stringing it out because she had such a good Lizzie Borden story. But yes, tell us about the human bone jewelry, and also tell us about the Penhurst. I think that's going to work one and the same.
Yeah. Okay. Well, first, I thank you for the compliment, and you're right. I do love it. And I think the thing I love the most about podcasts is years ago I was in radio, and it's nice to have something of my own that I can craft and do the way I want and talk about what I want. And to quote the gentleman who was the drummer in the Commitments in the movie, there's nobody to tell me to shut the fuck up. There's something to be said for that. And as far as where I get the bones, well, I'll just tell you, my dear oceanic friend, this was the last guy that got a little too curious. Just kidding.
Drop the hammer.
We're
gonna get your bones, bud. This sweet Aussie bones I hear are a lot sweeter.
Yeah, the sweet Aussie bone when you put them on the barbie. But actually, the bones that I use are ethically sourced. They come from osteological supply houses and teaching catalogs, and they're typically from people who have donated their bones, their bodies to science. They end up hanging in a medical school for 20, 50 years. And then when those skeletons get replaced, they tend to get parsed out. There is an episode in the first season of my podcast called The Bone Collector, and I talked to one of the bone brokers that I know. And we talk in depth about the human remains trade. But I've always loved bones. I've always loved skeletons, and I've always loved anything. And I also have a human cervical vertebra on my hat band with turquoise and I'm wearing same with a piece of Colorado red jade around my neck, and
Let me
he's
explain what that
funny.
means. So a ranger, right?
I know what a ranger
You know
is.
what that
I've
is?
been a redhead all my
Oh
life.
my
I know what
god.
it is.
Okay, that blew me away when I found that out. He goes, "Yeah, ranga." I'm like, "What the dude? What's a ranger?" He's like a
Ranga.
ranga, like an orangutan. I'm like,
Yeah,
"What the fuck? You
that's
can't
what they
do
call
that."
gingers in Australia. Ranga.
There you
Ranga.
go, your sister. There you go.
Oh yeah,
You found a sister across the
I
pond.
I did. And it's crazy, but I've always enjoyed. I grew up in the running around all those old graveyards in New England. In fact, I was bullied a lot, and I would go into the graveyards, and the bullies were afraid to go in the graveyard. So I ended up like kind of stuck in there because they'd man the gate until they got tired of it. So I just wander around, and the tremendous amount of skulls and wings and art on the gravestone. And I got into the history, and I'd go home and I asked my dad questions because I'd see names on the gravestone that matched like names on my school, the founding fathers of our town kind of thing.
Mhm.
And his answer, my dad was an educator. My dad was an art teacher, but he loved arts, humanities, history, and he would always say, "Well, look it up." And that was back in the day when you had to go to the library and do a card catalog or go to the town hall and look up all kinds of cool old moldy books and things like that. So I started very early with an interest in, and I guess, all things graveyard. And I'm still very interested. I worked in cemetery preservation for years. I still volunteer. I'm the head trustee of a cemetery. And it's very important to me that reverence and remembrance and preserving the history of these places is still at the forefront of what we do. And well, you can tell. I think it was Alexander Pope that said it. You can, or no, excuse me, William Gladstone said, you can tell about a society by how they treat their cemeteries. They're dead.
They're dead, of
Yeah.
course. That's why I have great, like super reverence for like people that really take care of their dead, and especially honor their dead later on. I mean, it's a little bit too far to like exhume them and walk them around in a parade,
Oh, they
right?
do that. What is it? The Philippines?
That's right.
Yeah,
They take them out and
kind
they
of a
kind of exude like they're just ready to go. It's like, hey, it's time to take out grandma and grandpa, and that's a bit far. Is that what
seems like a lot of work.
a lot of work? Yeah, and so taxing for our dead. Um, what is it? 'Cause one of my core questions was: is that what made you so spooky? Is that really what made you so spooky from an early age?
I
Was
you know I'm trying to figure. I don't really have a hard. I've always been drawn to everything. I've always there were my sisters loved, the Partridge Family. My sisters loved Bobby Sherman and Here Come the Brides. I
normie
loved
stuff? Normie stuff.
Vincent
Yeah,
Price.
yeah.
You
The
know,
funk of 40,000 years.
yes. And I think I was hooked when he was the weirdo guy in the cave on the Brady Bunch Hawaii episode, with Oliver. And I've always loved stuff. All my friends loved Judy Blume books. I loved Edgar Allan Poe.
Right.
They were reading, even in class, that we were reading John Steinbeck, and I was picking up H.P. Lovecraft, who was
That's where it's
from
at.
Providence as well.
Absolutely, the spookiest place, and it's also regional, right? Like, I'm glad you mentioned that because it's a little easier when you have the history of Salem and you have the history of
Sure.
spooky ass
And it was all
Massachusetts,
around us.
right? And death and war and rebirth and patriotism and all that kind of stuff. And these things over the hundreds of years just get ingrained into the region. So it's a little bit easier for you to step into that kind of a talk than it is, let's say, for me in Miami, where everything's salsa and mangoes. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but Miami's fun. We
It's
have a
spooky
nice
too.
history there. It is
It's a
spooky.
young city. It's a young city,
It
and it
is.
doesn't have that like this happened in 1692. I mean, people died here for no reason or whatever. And you start thinking about the history. You ever walked into you walked into places and you're like, I feel it,
Yeah.
right?
Don Henley and Glenn Fry wrote a song. That's the last song on the Hotel California album called "The Last Resort," and the first line of the song I think explains it beautiful. And it's about a girl, of course, because that's all '70s rock is about, a girl.
Of
And
course.
the first line of the song is, "She came from Providence, the one in Rhode Island, where the old world shadows hang heavy in the air." And I thought that was a great way to describe that feeling.
Name a spookier place. So that part of New England. Is there another place in the United States that has that kind of New Orleans? Maybe
I was
did
gonna
you
say,
know?
duh, New Orleans,
Right? Is that
Savannah.
those are our places. So what's up with Savannah?
Savannah is kind of like New Orleans East. Savannah has, and I know you have lots of Southern folk that listen to you. First of all, I love
Yeah.
my Southern friends, and
Yep.
and they are just. I think the best way to describe Southerners, and I know this is a hackneyed saying, but down south, they don't put the skeletons in the closet; they put them on the front porch and hand them a cocktail.
Yeah.
And
Understood.
that's what I like about the South. So when you go into the South, oh, we get somebody from Charleston. That's a very, very cool place. And there's a lot of, there's a lot of wonderful, rich and varied history down there. And there's a lot of their flavor is as cool as a low country boil. I mean, it's really got a lot
It's funny you
going
say
on.
that. Me and TS here, good friend of mine. We were talking about low country boils, and he's all about them. And we were. I just sent him a YouTube channel. I just sent him a YouTube channel that he has to be a part of because all he does is low country boils and different shrimp boils. It makes your mouth water. So yeah, he's a big culinary guy. What's up, Todd?
Oh, it doesn't get better than that.
Oh yeah, that's a good place regionally to eat. Let's see. I think we have another Aussie in the house. This is Lisa Nielsen.
Hi guys, how are you? It's Lisa Nielsen here from Perth, Australia. Yeah, I just want to say I'm loving the show so far, Midnight Media, and your guest Rocky. It's nice to meet you, and I think you're adorable. I don't think you're spooky at all. I think you're wonderful, and I actually share the same passion with human bones. I have 5 kids to 4 different fathers, so I love a good bone. But nice to meet you.
Okay.
She loves a good bone. She's like she's
Well,
like
who
old Mother
doesn't?
Hubbard.
Come
Oh yeah,
on.
she lives in a shoe. She has like so many kids, she doesn't know what to do.
I think
She's
she
got a
lives
lot
in a
going on.
kinky boot, but let's just,
She's into the bones. She's into
But
a different kind of human bones.
another thing I love about bones. So I've always loved the skulls and I guess the quote unquote dark part. I've worked in the medical field for a very long time, so I have a lot of scientific curiosity and interest.
Sure.
But something, and I was telling folks that this weekend at the convention, I said one of the things I love about bones is bones are egalitarian. And I say that because when we get down to the skeletal level, we're all pretty much, and don't the anthropologists are going to argue about the hip width and all that stuff, but I'm just saying in general, we are pretty much all the same. We argue about everything that's on top of our bones.
Fundamentally, we are.
Fundamentally, when you get to bone level, we are who we are, and we're all the same.
Mhm.
You can't look at a skull and it's when you picture what's on top of it is all the stuff we argue about.
Right.
Well, I shouldn't say we argue. Some people argue about.
Some people. I'm past
I
the
have no
argument.
arguments. No.
No, I'm good. In fact,
Except for
talk
the guy who called me a ranger. That's just not nice.
yeah, ranga.
Ranga.
I thought it was not nice, and then it was like, no, we do it as a term of
You know
endearment.
what?
I'm like, holy
It
shit.
is not meant as like a supreme, horrible, ugly
No.
insult. It's
Hell
just sort of
no.
a teasy thing.
But of course, yeah, I needed to learn that because immediately it's a shock when you're like Ranger. I'm like, we're like Wrangler jeans. What are we talking about? And then he tells you
Orangutan. You know, this
it's
big
a shock. But
flaming
it's like,
orange asses.
I get it. But it's all with love, yeah. And that's what
Yeah.
I've
Oh,
learned to
yeah.
love about Australian people too. They have like an entire notion of language. Like they're literally across the world. They use language differently. Some things that Rocksteady will do, he'll do like a promo or something, and he's like, I'm like, whoa, that I don't think that means what you think it means. Like here in America, it means a little something different. But it's
Well,
awesome. It's awesome to see their culture.
I mean, when you look, yeah, it's like ginger.
Yeah, it's ginger. Yeah, I mean, what's you're calling somebody a mammal, or you're calling somebody a piece of ginger root? Like it isn't that ginger doesn't even make sense if you think about it.
I guess
Ginger's not that color.
No, cinnamon is, I guess, for some.
Cinnamon, strawberry blonde.
Strawberry. I was strawberry blonde as a kid,
Yep.
but you have that like cinnamony thing, and I don't know. One other they do in the Philly area, and I've never understood this. I, I'm not.
I did it. He did it. From Game of Thrones, you ginger minge.
Is they now? I'm not particularly a fan of being called red.
Oh, well, that's got to happen a lot, right?
It does.
Carrot Top. Oh no. Oh no.
My nickname when I was Heat Miser.
Heat Miser.
Heat Miser.
What does that mean?
Look up Heat Miser and put the picture up, and everybody's gonna laugh.
I'm on it.
Heat Miser.
M-E-I.
I even know the song. I'm Mr. Heat Miser. I'm Mr. Sun.
Oh yeah.
I'm Mr. Green Christmas. I'm Mr.
Whoa.
101.
Whoa. Is this what we're talking about here? Where is it?
Let's
Miser
see.
artist.
And that's me when I was 10.
Christmas, I'm Mr. Sun.
That was a good impression. Good, perfect. I'm Mr. Sun. I like that.
Yeah, it's always fun to be a woman with a very deep voice.
I like that. We talked about this, but I'd like
Yes.
for them to know
The
what
formidable instrument.
how often do you get the sir thing?
Oh, constantly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help that I often will use Rocky on the phone, and I think you want me to tell the story about the phone call at work.
I
So I
love
used to
that.
have a sign on my cubicle when I had a cubicle and I worked answering phones. I work in hospital IT by day, and I worked answering phones for the help desk, for the clinical help desk, and so doctors would call if they weren't able to close their note or do whatever in the program. And because of the whole Raquel thing, I usually use Rocky because it's easier for people to remember as well. So I would always answer, Epic Clinical Help Desk. This is Rocky. How can I help you? And so,
Right.
and then I'd go on and just do my thing and yada. So I get this doctor. I know the doctor, but I'm attending to his problem. The whole time he's going, "You the man. You the man. Oh yeah, you have helped me out." And he's
Bro,
buddy, bro, and he has like broed me to death. And I realize that he thinks to me, I'm like, here's where it gets funny. And at the end, he's like, "Buddy, I owe you a beer." I said two things. One, I prefer IPAs.
yeah.
Two, I'm actually getting to Belgians now. This was a while ago.
Mhm.
And two, I'm not a guy. Not only am I not a guy, you're my doctor and you're my gynecologist. So you
Wow.
have been like, nose in to where I'm not a guy.
You have full confirmation on how I'm not.
You have been at ground zero of not a guy. And as soon as I said that, I hear, "Oh my God." I said, "Yeah, it's Raquel." And he goes, "Oh no."
no.
And then he starts laughing.
I've
Every
seen your
time,
vagina.
right?
God.
He's been in the danger zone,
Right.
and so he knows I'm not a guy. And
Danger
I
zone.
get it, and it was a joke, and we still laugh about it to this day whenever I run into him. And it happens a lot, but I would rather sound like this than one of the mice in Cinderella.
Are you
And a
kidding
lot of
me?
them, yeah.
I love how you sound, and that's one of the
Thank
things
you.
I was like when I heard the podcast, when I saw that it was a possibility for us to be in each other's podcast. I was like, oh man! And can I tell you something? Because I feel super comfortable with you. I thought you were
Sure.
black for a moment.
That is not the first time I've heard that.
I thought you were a black woman.
That is not. I got the booty for it, but
Okay.
but yeah, no, I'm working. I just lost 60 pounds.
Hey, that's fantastic.
And so now I got like the big old bubble butt and the little snatched waist thing happening.
You didn't lose the junk.
I did not lose the junk. The trunk remains full.
The trunk remains
The trunk
intact.
remains full.
I love it.
I lost some of the shelf. I'm not sure I can sit my, you can't sit a beer on it anymore.
Can't sit the beer on it.
Not quite. I'm not sure. You could probably put a shot on it.
Couple more squats.
Yeah, we're
Just a
working
few
on
more.
it. I'm doing the circuit training. It's killer.
That's great.
But that is not the very first time, because I tried to get into radio years ago, and since I tried, I actually succeeded. I got into radio years ago, and I remember when I went into an interview for a station in Connecticut, the program director was like off kilter the second I walked in the room, and I'm thinking to myself, what's his problem? And afterwards, he said something along the lines of, "Well, I was just surprised because I thought you were black."
Wow. Yeah.
And that happens from time to time, and I'm not sure what in particular it is, if it's just a vibe that people
Timbre,
get,
the timbre.
if it's the timbre, and
for a moment.
and, I realize that most of us Beckys are supposed to sound like, oh no, wait,
Hi.
Becky's the one that's, oh
Becky.
my God, Becky, look at her butt. Okay.
It is so big.
Yeah, it is so big. I'm supposed to sound like that, right?
No, even then, we can't. People like us can't hide it. We can try it. Even that is deep.
I don't try. I never try.
And never try.
The only time
We were
my
gifted.
voice shoots up like that is when I'm freaked out. Oh my God. I'll get
Right.
up there. And even then, the funniest thing, and I know you've done this, is somebody with voices like ours
Yep.
on helium.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't come, it comes out really weird. It doesn't
Sounds like
do what it does for everybody else.
Orson Welles' Omicron Transformers. Rise, Galvatron, and then it's like
I'm gonna
Rise,
some-
Galvatron.
Nice, Galvatron. I'm gonna put something in your head about Orson Welles,
Yeah.
and you're not gonna be able to unhear this.
Okay.
The next time you hear anything, I was thinking particularly of like his performance in Jane Eyre. Kelsey Grammer and Orson Welles sound almost identical.
Kelsey Grammer has a very underrated voiceover.
Oh, he's delightful, and I think it was great that his main character became a radio performer. Fraser Crane. It was
Makes
perfect.
sense.
But one time I walked into my folks' house many moons ago, and my mom's watching TV in the other room, and I'm listening, and I looked at my dad. I'm like, Frasier's on now, and I walked in, and she was watching Jane Eyre. And when you look
Wow.
at Jane Eyre, especially that era, he looked like Kelsey Grammer. Why?
Kind of with a slick back hair.
Yeah, why
Mhm.
Kelsey Grammer never played Orson Welles, I don't know, because he would have been perfect.
There's time. There's still time.
And I think Jason Momoa needs to play my next husband.
Yeah. Well, I've already told
Well.
my wife that if she can, that's her hall pass. If she can trick Jason Momoa into having sex with her, bang, do it. I'll sit in the cuck chair.
There you go. Yeah. Well, I'm in free agency now, so
Okay.
Jason, I'm ready.
Oh, put it out there. Free agency, Rocky. Let's go. Maybe you would hit it off with Buck Lau, which is also a listener from the Philippines.
Hello, everybody. This Bak Lao. Bak Lao come from Vietnam. I
Vietnam,
want
sorry.
to say the very same for the lady. I think very much the same. The bone underneath is very much same from one man to the next man. And what on top is
To
the
the neck
different.
man.
Except for the lady, I think the lady should stay in the kitchen. Like my wife, she give me the fucking headache. She stay in the kitchen. She's very different, but from one man to the next is very much the same. I agree with you.
You like the bone. He's down with the bone.
What's that song by Deadeye? She don't eat meat, but she sure likes the bone.
She sure likes the bone.
She's a
Hey,
vegetarian. Mary
Kelly
Moon,
Keys.
Mary Moon.
My very dear friend Kelly Keys says, I need that same hall pass
That's a woman of distinction.
she's trying to get with Jason Momoa. Let's put it on to the.
Kelly, if we all gang up on him, he's gonna have no hope.
If you all gang up on him, I'll film it. I'll make sure. Yeah, I will edit the video. I'll get it out lickety split to you guys. But so we talked about bone jewelry. We talked about a little bit about the Pennhurst convention.
Oh yes, there's an asylum in Spring City, Pennsylvania, known as the Pennhurst Asylum. It was an asylum. It was built in the early 1900s, and it was in operation till the mid 80s. And when it was finally shut down, it was because of gross negligence and abuse. So much so that the landmark case in the 80s that eventually shut down the asylum. This is all on Wikipedia. If you look up Pennhurst, Pennhurst asylum. That they came up with a statute known as the Pennhurst Doctrine that is well known in legal medical legal circles. So this place was at one point, just horrible, and it is several buildings, and it's fallen into some disrepair. A lot of nature's trying to reclaim some of it, but they do tours. They do a Halloween attraction there, and that's how a lot of people are familiar with it. But they also do. Oh yeah, it's stunning. It is absolutely just this huge, formidable.
It looks like a place of nightmares as well. It really
really was. And
had any movies been filmed here? I feel
not
like
that
it
I'm
has.
aware of. They may have. I don't know.
Good
But
Lord.
they hosted this past weekend, and they're going to do it again in May of 2023. They hosted a paranormal conference and oddities expo. So their celebrity guests were from the paranormal shows. The guys from Mountain Monsters were there, also wearing overalls, and the Amy and Adam from Kindred Spirits. They had a couple of other teams that I wasn't as familiar with, but also they had the team from Ghost Hunters, the OG. Yeah, there you go. That's isn't that place amazing?
Gorgeous.
They had the Ghost Hunters. They had Jay Hawes, Steve Gonsalves, Dave Tango, and Sherry DiBenedetto from Ghost Hunters, and they also had Jack Osborne.
So yeah, you met Jack Osborne this weekend, right?
I did. I got the chance to meet Jack Osborne, who is an incredibly delightful, gracious individual. He is a gentleman and a scholar. and he was, and I did slip him my card because I told him I was there vending human bone jewelry, and he said that's really interesting. And I said, well, I do custom work. And as I'm walking away, I'm like, you should have said, yeah, well, what else do you get the Prince of Darkness for Father's Day?
Right, Jesus Christ! Like your
I'm
dad
the
is like
fucking Prince of Darkness, Sharon.
eating
You
the
know,
fucking bad heads. He's
yeah. Oh
he's the
yeah.
best.
He needs human bone jewelry and it was. So if any of you out there know Jack Osborne, tell him A, I think he's awesome. B, he needs to get a piece for the Oz. Because that's like I'd love to do a matching set for his parents.
I think
I
at this
love the
point,
show he does
I think
with
at this
them.
point, you just give it to Jack, and he'll just place it on his dad. I don't think his dad is is too with it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear that because I got a big. I'll tell you one thing I love is I love Black Sabbath's first album,
Oh yeah, of
and
course.
because two things I really enjoy are hard rock and blues, and Black Sabbath's first album is the most delightful example of both.
Mhm.
It's a really good example of that type of thing. I don't know if I want to stay the night in an abandoned asylum, and it's not because of like the creepy, or as Jack would say, the oogie boogie factor.
Mhm.
There's no running water there. And second time you use hand sanitizer, you no longer feel sanitized.
Yeah, it's like sweep. Was it mopping without sweeping? Right.
Ew, yeah, it was just like, so yeah. I mean, I realize there's a lot of folks out there that are very resilient and can go out camping, but as for me, man, I'm not bush broke or nothing, so I'm not really sure I'm ready for that kind of commitment.
Yeah.
But it was a cool place to hang out, and it's they're doing a tremendous job trying to keep it up, trying to get the funding and to have events to keep it going. So I got a chance to also hang out with the Taps folks, and sort of a weird aside is long before they had a TV show, they were a little group in Rhode Island that met at a Starbucks in Warwick
Mhm.
for their meetings, and I was in the group. So I've known Dave and Steve since the late 90s, early aughts.
Mhm.
And Jay and Steve, rather, not Dave. Jay and Steve are terrific humans, as are Dave and Shari, of course, but I've known them for a long time. I've known, and it was great to see them and reconnect with them. And they're very serious and passionate about what they do. They're extremely gracious to their fans. And even though I knew them when they were just regular Joes, they're still regular Joes. They're great people.
That's awesome. Kelly, this is the room you'll be staying in.
Yeah, there's your
Just so
suite.
there's your suite, babe, and then you got just bring your own, like unfurl your own cot, and then just I think that might be the internet here. Is, is that like an internet cable up here? No,
The
maybe not.
Wi-Fi, yeah, they have Wi-Fi.
The Wi-Fi password is fuck me. This sucks.
You know what's funny? I've been to a couple of Paracons, and what's interesting is what I want to call the ghost hunter uniform.
Mhm.
And it's not too much different than what I'll call the death metal local band uniform,
Yeah,
which is sort of like,
platform shoes,
no,
leather. Like
we're
the
talking
new.
about the guys on stage. The
Oh, okay.
guys in the band. Okay, for death metal, the guys wear what I call man capris. They'll call them shorts. They don't really look quite like shorts. They're like mid calf. I call them man capris. They'll be like those cargo man capris
Yeah.
and, a
Yep.
t-shirt with an unrecognizable squirrely
Just a,
band name on it. Yeah. Some
almost
sort
like
of
the Macabre
staticky.
podcast font. A
Yes.
little bit.
Yeah. I wanted to get a hint of that, but still make it readable.
Hell yeah, you can read it. You can read it.
And they always have names, so many medical names. One of my dear friends here in Jersey has a band called Supremia, which really means blood sepsis. So that's,
Oh,
and I've seen names like,
blood sepsis.
Postdictal is one.
Yeah.
And that's the state usually somebody's in after a seizure. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
medical names.
I just
Hematoma.
saw was it Hematoma is a great band, and then about a
Right.
year and a half ago, I just
The
saw
Bruise.
Dying Fetus, which was a great one, and
Yeah,
Dying
that's-
Fetus is an amazing band. Stole the whole show. Cannibal
So,
Corpse.
but the death metal uniform is sort of like the man capri shorts,
Mhm.
along with the t-shirt and that kind of thing. So the ghost hunter uniform, and I think it's just funny because having known them before the TV show, the ghost hunter uniform, I always want to say, like, they're all running around like they dressing like Jay did in the 1990s before he had a stylist. And
Exactly.
it was just, or whoever. Although he's got great style, but he's actually he's looking very fit, very healthy. It was nice to see him on I like seeing my friends on top. I really
Hell
do.
yeah. Yeah, I like to see
Yeah.
people fucking win.
I
Absolutely.
and you, it couldn't happen to nicer, more hardworking, dedicated people.
Sweet.
But what's funny is watching all these people from the groups that are like, emulating and trying to do their own thing and trying to get. They all dress like he did back in the day.
Wow.
So I was like, yeah,
It's
he
cyclical.
kind of did a style thing. They go with the t-shirts and the cargo pants and the
Yep.
ball caps. And
I know in the 90s I had Jenko jeans on, which is, the 70s we had bell bottoms. Well, in the 90s they came back. It was like the biggest bell bottoms ever. And then, the black t-shirt with whatever insert band here and
Insert band
shell
here.
top Adidas, and you're good to go.
I have had the same style since I was like, I don't know, 6.
Spook me up, Mom.
I still wear overalls. She said, wearing overalls.
Love overall.
I do. I love overalls. But I mean, I've always been drawn to like, and it's funny. Somebody said like you kind of dress like a hippie. I guess I like my hippie skirts and my flip flops and whatnot. But it depends on the mood. I'm not goth enough for the goths. I make human bone jewelry, for fuck's sake.
You're more goth than the goths, but you don't have to.
Well, they freak out when they come by my table. Whenever I see somebody, for the most part, that's like really gothed up. I mean, really gothed up. I mean, like they look like they're gonna melt in the sun.
Yeah, they got fucking. I just saw them, like all the makeup.
Right.
A friend is wearing a leash. The other one's walking him.
And
Like
they'll walk by my table, and I'm one of those interactive sellers. I'll be like, made from humans, and or I'll say all real human bones. We're all human all the time, and stuff like that. And I always tell people they have a bone to pick with me.
Any bone pun you can get.
Oh, the puns are fast and furious. I don't know how the sellers on either side of me, by 2 hours of that, haven't decided just to put me out of my misery.
How many times? Sorry to interrupt. How many times have you been asked for like anything to do with like a pelvis or like, obviously penis aren't bones, but like anything sexual? Like, do you have any?
Has anyone asked me anything sexual? Not usually referring to the bones. It's usually what you doing later.
Yeah,
but
that's good.
Well,
you know what I mean? It's like, do you have like a woman's pelvis? Like, I don't know. It could get weird,
I have not had a lot of, and not asking anyone to start, but I have not had a lot of sexual references in direct result to my work. I do have that one guy that goes, see if she's got a dick bone. That guy comes by because his kids or his wife dragged him there.
He's got a Budweiser in his hand. He's like, oh,
yeah, that guy.
You got a boner in there?
And a bucket hat. He has to have a bucket hat.
Of course.
And a bucket hat. But yeah, the serious goths, they're always so disappointed that I'm not very goth. But it's kind of funny. They'll come by and as soon as I say real human bones, they're like, that's the highest pitch, by the way, I can actually muster.
Have you ever, this is a good one. Has anyone ever ordered a piece of jewelry and then they maybe thought it was like not real? And then they were like, you were like, okay, has never happened. Like, oh, this, I'm wearing it. It's like, this is like a human bone. And then they're like, no, that's actually human. They're like, oh my God, I'm wearing it.
It's fairly obvious. I also, on the when I talk to folks, when I show them the jewelry, I tell them specifically what bone it is because I know. And I got an A and A and P, 1 and 2. And also, if they were to look it up, there's some very specific shapes. The bones that I use, I don't use all 206 because some of them are weirdly expensive. For example, the stirrup in your ear, those itty bitty teeny tiny little ear bones are stupid expensive because I thought it might be cool at one point if I set them in resin to do maybe earrings. Yeah,
that makes sense.
And just they're very difficult to get because I think they break easily. So to find some intact,
gotcha,
is hard. So they're at a premium. And obviously anything that's really too big for jewelry. Occasionally I will end up with what I call grab bags. And sometimes I'll end up with the odd tibia or scapula, and I will do things like terrarium settings. I've done wands out of tibias.
Oh, that's awesome.
Leather wrapped wands, and it's yeah, if she reads that, she ain't gonna touch your other bone, all right?
My wife talks to me, I don't use my ear bones either because it hurts my head bone.
Yeah, she reads that, she's gonna be pissed she ain't gonna touch your other bone.
We try. Yeah, she's never gonna touch your other bone. The important bones.
Phil.
That's the 207th bone.
That's the 207th bone. Yeah. But you know, and the funny thing is, people talk about penis bones, which are actually very rooted in a lot of folk magic. They're known as a baculum, and people don't have them. That's why we have Viagra, or as
Exactly.
my mom calls it. This is true story. My mom defaults to Portuguese
Mhm.
when she reads a word she doesn't know. And I remember one day she was talking about, I don't see why I have to see these commercials, and I don't see why I have to see this ad in the paper. I was like, for what, Mom? What are you talking about? She goes, well, I don't need to know about all this Viagra.
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 It sounds spooky like that. It
And
sounds
I'm
like
like,
a
Viagra.
wow.
And I'm like, Ma, it's Viagra.
Viagra. It makes your dick hard.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway.
you don't ever say that to my mother.
Oh, she'll
My
slap you.
mother's a saint.
Oh, sure. Yeah. All of the older ladies are saints, although they have 11 children. They never had sex.
All right, of
Yeah,
course
come
not.
on, man. Come
Yeah.
on. Those people are getting busy. Let's see. We have a friend, Tyler Perry.
Hi, IC. Tyler Perry here from San Francisco. I just wanted to drop in, say hi, because I'm a fan of the show, as you know. But, oh, God, to your guest, girl, I love your hat. I want to know where can I get one from?
Francisco. Good job.
Well, Tyler, you can get a hat band. The hat is just a standard straw cowboy hat, but the hat
Mhm.
bands are available as a custom piece. They are $120.
Mhm.
And you can go on my website, darkerartstudio.com, and
Mhm.
click the email thing, and we shall talk about what you'd like.
Yep.
And I will be
It's
happy
right.
to make one for
It's
you.
right there on the scroll bar. You'll be able to put that there so people can easily access your YouTube page. But really, you can access everything from the darkerarts.com
Yes,
website. Yep.
all the goodies.
Let's see. Interesting question from the kid. Do you ever get the story behind the bones?
I do not, and the reason being, again, these are from retired medical specimens, so they have been either hanging in medical schools and teaching facilities. By the time they get to me, they've had at least 1 or 2 lifetimes
Got
as
it.
one thing or another. So it is difficult, and a lot of people ask me about that. Those I remember. I do the Monster Mania Con conventions in New Jersey, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. I'll be there this August. But one of the things was there was this 13-year-old kid who was obviously the funniest kid in his class. And he's walking by and his mom goes, "Oh, look, real human bones." And he looks at his mom in abject horror. And he looks at his mom, he looks at the bones, and he looks at his mom, and he points to my table and he goes, "Do you want poltergeists? Because that's how you get poltergeists."
I said, what?
And I'm like, I'm adopting him. He's fantastic.
I love that kid.
Yeah,
That's
I
how you
love
get
this kid.
poltergeist.
That's how you get poltergeist.
That and Indian burial grounds, but whatever.
Right. But I literally have skeletons in my closet.
That's got to be the
In
oldest trope
pieces,
ever for
and
you,
not
huh?
all of them, but,
Yeah. This is my closet. Check out my skeleton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, and truthfully, I have not had any experiences in the spiritual sense from the bones other than I treat them with respect, and I try to elevate them into a beautiful art form, and I think that there's a positivity to that. Something interesting also, if you notice the difference between the bone on my hat, which is relatively new, if you notice that's very light colored, and the bone around my neck is got a darker patina. Bone is porous. When you wear it against your skin oils go into it gets a patina that's unique to you. So you become part of it, it becomes part of you. So if your bone has bad juju, that's you.
That's on you. You got the
That's
bad.
on you.
Yeah, the bad juju wasn't because of the handling. The bad juju's on you. Is there? I guess by that time you said it kind of gives. It has two different lives. Where I'm sure it's
By the
acquired,
time it gets to me,
cleaned, disinfected. Like by the time it gets to you, it's been through ringer.
most of these bones are usually 50 plus years old.
Got it.
They have
Which
been
makes it even
bones
cooler.
that long.
That's super cool.
I have a lot of antique pieces. Some of my pieces are set in resin that are a little bit more durable. You can, wear a carpal bone on your wrist. How's that for irony?
You should make it. You should make a carpal tunnel. Like a tunnel out of the car. Okay, I'm here all week.
Try the feel.
Right. So okay. So I know a little bit later. Well, we're coming up on about an hour and 20. It's pretty much when I thought about maybe if you wanted to do a quick tarot reading on me to see
Yes.
how the fuck I'm doing. I think that would be a nice interactive thing to do with everybody.
It is indeed.
Um,
I've read tarot cards since I was a kid. I actually learned how to read cards from my grandmother on a regular playing deck. Cartomancy is a very old art, and my grandmother from Portugal tell fortunes with bones, chicken bones, and shells.
what
and
did you, I'm sorry,
things.
what did you call it? Cartomancy?
Cartomancy.
Cartomancy.
That is the there's and then she also performed tassomancy. Tea
What is
leaves.
aha? Okay, so literally where reading the tea leaves come from.
Yes, tassomancy. All right, let's give it a shuffle.
Do you need a lock of my hair? Or anything? Should I mail you something?
Please don't.
Please don't fucking send me any hair.
Don't send me any hair. No, don't do it.
Become a beard.
You know what's really funny? I don't say my R's in English, but I roll them in Portuguese.
As
No idea why that happens. You know, I'll be like, "You got your car keys? Maybe they're in the pocket of your car keys."
I think it also depends on how
And then I'm
comfortable you
like,
are with
"Eu
people
falo
too.
português."
If you're a little bit more, if you're comfortable with people, you kind of let it go a little bit. But if you're trying
I
to,
really
you know,
do. You know, and
hello,
the
this
other
is
thing-
Rocky, and we are, you know, like
Yeah,
when you're doing the podcast, it's a little different.
I try to. As soon as you shock me, though, I'm like, "Get the fuck out of here!
The fuck out of here.
Get the fuck out of here!" Oh, that's wicked cool. You know, and all of a sudden, you know, I'm all New England all the time. Let's do a 3-card reading on you.
Let's do it.
All right, your first card is the Empress.
That's a good band that you're
It
friends
is
with.
a good band. Shout out to Vlad, Barbara, Nick, Joe, and Mark, whom I love dearly. And
Before we get into that, let's do the one last audio. That way we can get into the reading.
I don't want to give away my name, but you might know me from such movies as The Godfather. Anyway, I'll be willing to donate a few broken bones for you if you want. I need to get rid of them. Maybe we could work something out, something mutual. We've got plenty to donate for you.
Wow.
Hey,
Great. Looks like great Marlon
Paisan,
Brando.
my name ends in a vowel. You got some patellas? I could use some kneecaps.
Bring me some
Some
scapulas.
fucking kneecaps. Yeah. This
Wow, great.
fucking guy. I love that when you hear that's my favorite thing about North Jersey is the North Jersey eye ties are absolutely awesome when you get this fucking guy.
This fucking guy.
Yeah, there's just like they're just fantastic. All right, so the 3-card reading. The first card we're talking about like what's happening with you now. So card number 1 is sort of like a present read. Let's get a little general thing, and it's the Empress, and that's a card that deals with creativity, personal growth, development, and that's not a real surprise for me. And it almost seems that you're looking to bring more success, to bring freedom.
That's very true.
Yeah, and you're an industrious guy. I get the feeling you've had your hands in a lot of pies, and I mean that in the business sense. I'm not
Okay,
making
I was about to say, like, I definitely touched some pies.
Okay, well, I'm sure you have. You know that movie American Pie is just like ruined pie for me.
Yeah,
But
I just
yeah,
always think about a dick in it.
Yeah, you know, and I mean, and I say to myself, you know, wasn't there like a knot hole in a tree or something? You know,
Yeah, you get creative when you're 13.
dendrophiliac. But one of the things that is difficult is when you're focusing on creativity, and the Empress is showing that you're having a creative surge. Remember to get out of your box, as it were. Remember to get outside. Don't get so focused that, because what happens, especially post-pandemic, we're all inside so much now. There is a lot of inspiration and networking to be done outside. And I always say that whenever I see the Empress card, because you know it's part of your overall health to get some fresh air. So get out there.
I mean, I can relate to that because you spend so much time here editing videos, breaking down, making YouTube shorts and everything. I mean, you saw, you know, when I started posting everything and tagging you, gosh, that took me about four.
The song choice.
All right. And one of my favorite bands, but like that alone takes 4 or 5 hours just to plan out. And then you're like, I'm not going to go outside. It's fucking, you know, like I'm so tired, or I can do one more thing. I can relate to that.
Something I've done personally, and I'm trying to be more aware of this. Now, of course, you know, we all have our text friends, we all have our message friends, we all have our Facebook, or, you know, of course I'm old, so I say Facebook. Apparently everybody 15 years younger than me, you know, doesn't do Facebook.
We're on Facebook right now. We're on
Oh,
Facebook right now. I changed my
hey,
ways.
Facebook.
Shout
Hello,
out to Facebook.
oldsters. You know, welcome to people who remember when there were no seatbelts and it was just your mom's arm. But you know, and all of that is I try to limit my screen time. You know, I try to make sure there's time in my day where I actually read a book or go outside and, you know, or I'll
Touch
take a walk.
grass.
Yeah, I'll
Mm.
get out there. I like to garden, but I mean, you know, it's just take a walk. Take a walk and people watch. Get out in the fresh air. Look around. Experience your world without a screen in your hand.
Get a
You know,
suntan. You know,
get
get
it.
some
I can't get a
some
suntan. I'm a
vitamin D.
ranga.
Get some
I'm a
fucking vitamin
ranga.
D. Vitamin D in
Rangas
your
don't
life.
tan. We don't
Hey,
tan. We
Burn.
incinerate in the sun.
I am absolutely peeling. You see that? That's from the concert that I went to last weekend.
Oh,
I have
right.
a farmer stand you can't even believe. Oh, it was like being on the surface of Mars. It was horrible.
So the second card we drew is the Ace of Cups. Now, in this case, the Ace of Cups is inverted, which is sort of speaking to a darker part of your stress and your drive taking joy out of your life. Sometimes you get too focused or you get irritable and it's just like you drive, and you get into that sort of like zone where it's like I know I've been this way. You almost resent that other people aren't anywhere near as driven as you about what you're passionate about.
How the
And
fuck do you?
sometimes
How did you do that? Did you talk to somebody?
no, it's hard.
Holy shit!
That's really, really hard. I have a
Wow.
very strange question now. I am not a medium. I've told many people I'm more like an extra large. But I'm not a medium, but
Yeah.
sometimes I get like this thing.
Yeah.
A woman, older, the only way I can say it is she has a brilliant smile. And she's wearing a lab coat. Does that make any sense to you?
A lab coat. No, not necessarily.
Almost like
Is she
she's
older?
yeah, like somebody who's passed, like
Right.
almost like she's
Well, there's my grandmother, a few aunts. The lab coat doesn't ring a bell, but it could be something that I don't know about.
right.
Something that you know.
I don't know. But
My grandmother was married to a doctor at one point.
maybe I don't know. It's almost like beakers and pharmacy stuff or something. I don't know. But
My mom will see this, and I'll ask her.
yeah, there you go,
For sure.
Mama. But the thing is that you know, it's like you get that darkness and it separates you because it's almost like I'm the only one who cares about this. Nobody else understands why I feel the way I feel. Nobody else, you know, is really feeling passionate about this, and you're segregating yourself emotionally from the people around you, even though they're supportive. You're trying to get that match level, and you need to put it in more perspective. You need to throw it into a prism and josh it up a little bit because you're seeing it through your eyes, not theirs. And realize that the people that support you, they're passionate about you. They may not understand what you do. I have met lots of people that are excited that I do art and they're excited that I do well, and they think I'm a fucking weirdo because I use bones.
Right.
I also do like regular drawing art and I do commercial art. I've done logos and stuff like that. But
And you
they,
also
you
have
know,
real jobs, and you're a respected pillar of the community, and all of these things. But like also,
I think you
also
might
that.
be stretching it with respected pillar of the community, but yes, I have a real
Let's
job.
go with that.
We'll go with that. But the thing is that when your focus gets, you're too intense for them.
Wow.
Your focus gets intense, and it's sort of a cautionary tale to be careful you're not alienating people with that intensity. Don't dial it back as far as the intensity is, but dial back the judgment of other people for not matching it, because they're not going to be able to, because that's something that comes internal for you. And the last
Wow.
card is the Knight of Cups. And
Holy shit.
It's that's the card of idealism. And something to remember when you see the Knight of Cups is that it's to bring out your more considerate and generous side. Because what happens is we all get driven. And you separate. There's the compassionate, generous side of you, and the Prince of Cups, excuse me, the Knight of Cups is very much that type. The cups is like hearth and home. That's like all the parts of you that make you you. and the parts that mean everything, the matters of the heart. So when I see that the Knight of Cups come in, that's like sort of saying, like, ground yourself into that loving place when you feel yourself getting frustrated because everybody else doesn't understand. You know, we're all a flaky artist in here somewhere,
Agreed.
and that kind of thing. And so it's sort of like to kind of like remember to put yourself in the place of the Knight of Cups, and remember to ground yourself in that place where you remember why you relate to the people you relate to, because you can probably have the tendency to focus on why you're not relating.
Wow. You don't know any of my friends or family?
I do not.
Okay. Just to put that out there, because you've hit some major relatability points for that.
As they say in New England, the cards don't lie.
I see that. And you don't know what to expect, because I haven't done this in a while. I don't necessarily know you outside of the things that we've
No.
done as far as like last week in this talk. And that's
And we had a blast on the podcast.
we did, and we connected very well, and we understand that
We did. I
we can be
adopted
friends.
you. You're like my cousin.
My Cugino.
My cugino.
Well-
Yeah, cugino o primo.
But like I can super relate to the things you said, because I can get intense. And I can also, when other people are not as on board as I am, you're totally right. I might have to dial it back a bit, because it's not. They may love what I do, they might support it in their own way, but they're not. What are they going to do? Be there every week? Share it. Like, it's just, it's unrealistic sometimes. You're totally right. And that
People can understand what you do, but still not get it.
right.
And take it from the bone lady. I get it. I understand, and I meet people like, I'll tell you, to my fellow singletons out there, dating apps are bullshit. They're just ridiculous. But one of the things, if you ever have anybody who, what is it the kids say now, slides into your DMs or messages you, and you want to get rid of them, tell them you make human bone jewelry.
Here we go.
Here's
Here's my
like
website.
Wile E. Coyote. They're just us, man.
Well, but conversely, I'm sure a very small part will be like, tell me more, mama.
Yeah, that guy. Don't get into a car with that guy.
Tell me more, mama. You want to make bones out of mine?
Yeah, don't get into a car with him. Don't
Make
do
some
it.
jewelry. But
No, it's crazy.
wow, that's incredible. So the three cards basically, just to recap, it was
The Empress.
the Empress, which ambition, right?
It talks about your ambition and your drive, and then we had the Ace of Cups reversed, which is talking about being careful about alienating yourself and kind of pulling yourself away from people. And I think it's the intensity that draws into it. And lastly, the Knight of Cups in the prime position, meaning that you need to reconnect with the part that is more grounded and more loving, because that intensity, we're a lot. And I say we because
we are a lot.
It's artists, musicians. I'm like all three. I'm an artist, I'm a musician. If you go on YouTube and you look at Long Tall Sally, NJ Blues, that's my band. And I'm an artist, I'm a musician, I work in IT, so I'm a nerd. That's a lot. And I'm a triple Leo. So
Jesus.
Yeah, it's just like a whole boatload of, oh boy.
I can relate, because I don't stop. I don't stop at musician, and
And the
want to do
ginger.
podcasting and play drums and
Ranga.
all the things that a ranga, but a proper ranga. So,
Proper
but,
ranga.
but I can tell, I can totally relate to that, because usually artists are not just one thing. Like,
No, I think I'd love to think that all of this, and I know we can all make faces about the media, and we can all make faces about the internet, and you get all these folks going something along the lines of like, well, in my day, you just went out and heard live music, and now to go turn it. And there's a lot of people cranking on it. One of the things I love about it is the renaissance that has come of it, the performances that you can be privy to. The way you can share your music and share your art and share your podcast. I think what it's done it is an undervalued renaissance.
that's a good way to put it. This was for me, especially the way I started in social audio, and told myself, okay, I think I can do this. I think I want to have interesting conversations with people. I want to roast things. You know, not every live cast like this is the way we've done it. You're actually one of the first people that I talked to that, you know, has a serious side. We're having a great time at the same time, but you have actual stories to share. Sometimes it's me and
And a
somebody
cow vagina.
somebody and a cow vagina and Joey Butts, and we're looking at the cow vagina. But you know, we can. That's all the things I like. I like to have good conversations. I like to interact with somebody who's had amazing conversations with people I haven't, and at the same time, I want to be able to play a video and take the piss out of something. You know,
Sure.
so it's a lot, like you said. And you're right. I think the intensity has been lately of one of like, I need to break YouTube. We need to get the channel monetized. Why isn't anybody else wanting to do this as hard as I do? But it's a personal goal, and I should definitely think of it as such and not impose such a strong will into like what I want to do and what my ends are to other people who are just might be innocent bystanders or just fans.
You know, and it is hard. It's. I mean, people relate and people support, but sometimes they can't understand what drives you. And I used
Definitely.
to get really hung up on that.
Yeah.
And I think that it is difficult to sometimes separate that and realize, even for your own edification, because, you know, I'm like a pit bull. If I'm latched on to something, I will shake it till it's dead. And sometimes you need to have somebody to tell you to drop it.
Totally agreed.
And I call those people in our lives the handlers.
Yeah, my handler.
The handlers.
Yeah, you might see things I don't see at the moment.
You know, and it's good to listen to your handlers. We all have good friends, family, and lots of folks in our lives that care about us, and if we're lucky, and they are our handlers.
I mean, I'll push back on just a little bit, because how many times have the real successful people said, "Fuck you, handler. Fuck you, this. I'm gonna go hard as a
Sure.
motherfucker," and then those are the people that are successful. But again, you're going to alienate people in your life. You're going to,
I think there's a balance. I think there's a way to be able to still, go balls to the wall. But I think the realization is that you got to realize that not absolutely everyone is going to match your intensity on
Exactly.
that. If you can deal with the discrepancy, then, you can still dial it to 11, but you got to remember not to turn it down for the people around you, in the sense that, let them, let them soak up as much as they can,
right,
but realize there's going to be excess.
Of course. And something I also struggle with is like the shameless plugs. As much as a narcissist as you have to be a singer of a band, to host a podcast, to think that you can do several things, right? Because ultimately we just think that we can do these things out of nowhere, and we do them.
Right.
So another thing I have an issue with, like this shameless self-promotion, that's something that kind of bothers me to the core.
Kind of like walking up to Jack Osborne right after he ate dinner and handing him your card.
I make bone jewelry, like, so
Right.
You have to have a special, like, I call it a screw loose, to be able to just have that. Like, I need to talk to this person, and this person needs to.
Only
this is
one.
a great opportunity for me to give this to someone, that could change my life.
Only one screw.
Right. So I'm like a box of.
I got like a whole like Heathkit up there rattling around.
But yeah,
Do you guys even know what Heathkits are?
Yeah,
Do they still make those?
Isn't a Heathkit like the things they used to give you to like
make radios and shit?
Yeah, I thought it was like I thought it was like screws and stuff that they gave you to like replace other things.
No, a Heathkit was like, you could build a radio, and there was always extra screws and bolts and stuff.
Right.
Back in the day.
Like
gotta remember, I'm old.
Like a model. Yeah. I don't know. We're not that far apart. 11 years is not that bad. Not that bad. I think my parents were about that when they got married. So
I've babysat for people older than you.
Oh fuck.
Yeah.
Oh shit. All right. Well, fine. You got me.
Me.
So
no, they used to have Heathkits, and we were all trying to put. That's when we used to it was a great thing. You get to build a camera or build a radio or some such craziness.
That's amazing. What going back to your podcast, I don't think we hit upon this one. Which one was your very favorite? Did you tell me that one?
Oh,
I know that we talked about Jim Morrison's.
Do you have kids?
I don't.
Okay. For people who have kids, picking the favorite one is always hard.
Yeah.
And I don't have kids, but I have a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And
Same.
it's hard to pick a favorite. In terms of learning things I never knew before, I would have to say that it would have to be the Jim Morrison podcast because that whole story about his son was a new experience for me. When it comes to creep factor and dedication, it has to be Carl Johnson from The Conjuring. Carl Johnson and I have been friends since we were in TAPS, 88 years ago. And Carl is a demonologist. He is one half of the original the original Ghost Hunters. I ain't afraid of no ghost.
Which you have a tie to, right? The original
original
paranormal-
Ghost Hunters that were from TAPS. If you look at the first season, you're going to see, I called them the Demon Twins, the two demonologists, Carl and Keith Johnson, who are identical twins, except I love to refer to Carl as the evil twin. And Carl and Keith and I have been acquainted for quite some time, but what's not necessarily the first thing you might know about them is they were in the early 70s, the first people on the scene to investigate the Conjuring house in Harrisville, Rhode Island. And the Perrin family and the actual real case surrounding that movie franchise. And they were the ones who called in the Warrens.
So they were personal friends or acquaintances.
They were acquainted with the Warrens, and they said, well, they got into that house and said, we need reinforcements. And that's how they got in there. So, because there's, as the story goes, they always say students from URI were the ones and those were the students were
University of Rhode Island. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and Carl goes into that at length in his episode. And it was a lot of fun to talk to him. And like I said, it's also delightful because he's a dear old friend. And I think as far as shock factor has to be the Nico Clo. And, so depending on whether you're going for whether I learned something, whether it was just cool and it was comfortable and interesting, was hearing the original Conjuring story from the people who were the first ones in that house, which was, because all the rest of it's gone Hollywood now.
Yeah.
And then, and then just for shock factor, talking to a guy who killed another guy. Did you know that in the 1980s, they still used the guillotine in France for executions?
Yeah, that was up until that part, and then they outlawed it. Yeah. I thought it was like the late 70s, but yeah, early.
But I
right around
mean,
there.
that's still a lot.
No, it's just ridiculous. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, just like when you find out, there were people still in slavery till like 1961.
Who has to clean that?
Right.
Seriously. Who has to clean that? Do they still use a basket? Do they use a bucket? I have questions.
Yeah.
So if anybody out there knows the answer to these questions, go to darkerartstudio.com and send me an email, and I'll have you on the podcast because boy, do I have questions.
Oh,
but
yeah.
and Nick, he's self-professed cannibal, and
That to me would be like the one that I would probably, if I were you, if I was in your situation, I would probably be really interested in the cannibal.
We had a lot of pointed questions and a lot of interest. He's extremely erudite and polite.
Really?
And yes, and he's actually a very nice guy in the sense that he has used art, and this was another thing that I thought was great about that podcast, to rehabilitate himself. He served his sentence for the murder he was convicted of, and he does speak of his previous experimentation with cannibalism. However, he flies the straight and narrow now, and he does a lot with artwork. And he talked very frankly, and I thought very candidly, which is always appreciated.
Absolutely.
About how he used this to reform himself. And I thought that was just outstanding. I did ask him though what people taste like.
What do you say? Well,
it's common. No, there's plenty of stuff in that podcast that'll shock your socks.
Yeah, I'm saying people might want to hear the podcast, but
they might want to hear the podcast. But all right, I won't say what he said they taste like, but I will say it's a good. And I said this to him. I said it's a good thing we don't taste like Oreos. Or I'd have been in the cell next to you.
I think one of the emails we were going back and forth, I said I would be on death fucking row. Or just people taste like Oreos. That'd be a murder.
Yeah, Oreos are fantastic, but yeah,
not enough milk in Wisconsin.
That was a very interesting and illuminating podcast. But each guest has brought something to the table. Even if it's just I've talked to a couple that I'm well acquainted with in South Jersey. Hey, Jazz and Bert, about their haunted house, and they're just normal folk who live live in a house that has a lot of paranormal activity. I've had the pleasure of talking to all sorts of people. I talked to one kid who's down your way, well, actually your former way out in Florida, who is talking about microdosing of psilocybin.
Yeah, it's a big thing now.
That's a big thing now. All of the stuff that used to be recreational is turning into medicine.
It's all recreational here in Nevada, so we get.
That's why the Grateful Dead heads are so well adjusted.
I'm telling you,
It's all shrooms and pot with them,
those are the boomers that have like 4 houses, and they're doing great.
Right, they're
Are you
well
kidding?
adjusted. Why?
Absolutely.
Shrooms and pot.
Fuck yeah,
They get it.
First of all, if somehow we can get higher level politicians or people that might be in power to just do a tiny little bit, and I'm not advocating for drug abuse, right? I'm not advocating for that.
Understood.
All I want is for them to have that feeling. Say the first or second, third time we've done any hallucinogenic like mushrooms or anything like that, I want them to feel that empathy for the world. I want them to feel the hive mind that we really are. How we're all interconnected. How we're all just
I've
one
never done
consciousness.
mushrooms.
How we're all of one. Well, that's you.
I've never done
I would do
LSD.
a tiny. If anybody ever offers you a chocolate or just a good way to
No.
ingest it, not just that. If you
I'm
think
weird
it's-
enough on pure air.
Okay, but
But-
for a moment, you are connected. For a moment, you understand. It's like, oh my god.
No, it'd all be fun, like, sitting around, feeling that connection, getting a little fuzzy around the edges, and then,
I would
looking
imagine you would be into it because you'd want to connect on a deeper level.
Yeah, but I would go running through the veil, and then the spiders would come, and it would just be ugly.
Oh,
No, yeah, but I will say that back in the day, I smoked my share of marijuana, actually, and thankfully my mom's not listening, so we should be okay and good to go. But I smoked my share and possibly your share, but
I doubt that.
Try
You
me.
come close. I kept going. I never stopped. So
Well, I worked in public safety. I'm a retired ambulance medic. I worked
right,
in
you couldn't
public
always be
safety
high.
for
Right.
yeah.
Of course.
But I live in New Jersey now, so anything goes.
Yeah, that's right. Is New Jersey recreational or?
New Jersey is recreational. You
That's
can.
awesome.
It absolutely blows my mind that you can like walk in to a dispensary and buy a quarter.
Yeah,
and
and
two
much more.
things, and well, and the thing that gets me though is that I looked at the price tag of some of this stuff, and apparently the percentages of THC are extremely refined and extremely high. This isn't like the dirt weed my friends grew in their gym shoes.
Nobody's
was
selling
in
you a
high
lid.
Right,
This is fucking high level. Change your mind. 32%. Like the best we ever smoked back in the day was maybe 14%, 15%.
Right.
We're talking about 33%. Like, how do you want to feel? Well, first of all, you walk into a dispensary. It's like, it's not so much like, hey, dude, you want to get fucking high? It's like very clinical, very medical.
It
It's
is
like,
very, very
how
clinical.
how would you like to feel today? Would you like to feel illuminated and creative in the morning? Is this for a morning buzz? Or are you looking more for a nighttime CBN kind of a, let your mind drift off into nothingness? Kind of like, well, you fucking put it that way. I'll take both. That sounds beautiful.
Hybrid.
Hybrid. I want it all.
Hybrid.
Put it in my fucking arm. I'm ready.
But I am 420 friendly in the sense that
Cool.
I would begrudge no one anything. But
Can I come over? Can I come over your house and smoke a joint?
Sure.
Okay, cool.
You're always welcome.
That's what makes it cool.
Yeah, no, I have to me, honestly, it is no different than somebody pouring a glass of wine.
Of course. Yeah.
I have no issue with it whatsoever.
I feel like many more people have been hurt by not necessarily the wine, but like liquor in general.
Sure.
Just because it makes you an aggressor at times. I've never seen a pothead smoke 2 joints and then go start a fight. The best they're going to do is try to open up a
that's the
Doritos bag,
truth.
right?
I worked in Atlantic City for years in Atlantic City 911 EMS.
Mhm.
And in that process befriended many of Atlantic City's police officers who were very, very good to us. And a dear friend of mine, I hope he's listening because I did tell him about this. My dear friend Bill, used to talk about how he would prefer to arrest a high person than a drunk person.
For real. I'd be like, here, bro. I'll just
He
take
says,
care of it.
and he says at least the high people you can put them in the car, and he says I just tell them we'll go to McDonald's, it's fine, and of course drunk people are belligerent and usually they actually didn't address high people, they were not looking for high people to arrest. Usually, in either case, it's because you did something else to break the law. But I would so much rather see people like chill and happy,
For sure.
and it never made me paranoid back in the day. I've never experienced that.
Never.
It's not, yeah, it's not my way.
Never.
I'm paranoid like when on air. I'm more paranoid normally,
Yeah, seriously.
but I'm so amazed at the stuff. There's mints and
Oh yeah.
and
Drinks, little sodas.
is there a little soda?
Oh man, they're
Chocolates.
delicious. They're delicious. The chocolates fuck you up because I can't control the edible. I can control how many hits I take. I can control.
The edible is you get what you get.
You get what you get. Some other company made it where their standards might be different than the other one. Not that it's unsafe. It's just the amount.
No, it's just going to vary.
And it's
Your
going to
mileage
vary.
may vary.
Feeling, my God. And then one of the things that we talk about in Vegas that I've always, as soon as they said like, okay, it's going to be recreational, you're like, wait a minute. Okay, fine. This kid flies in from, I don't know, Kentucky, whatever, right? Somewhere where it's not. And then he goes in, he buys a brownie and he eats it, or a cookie. And then he walks into the middle of the strip, like, and just gets, how
So
can
now
you
he's high and gambling. But
how can you
seriously,
control? No, but like literally walk into like traffic,
Yeah.
So there's got to be that kind of
On the
level of-
positive side, though, it's a town full of buffets when the munchies hit.
fuck yeah. No, when it all
Yeah.
works out, and it works out perfectly. There's
You know,
anything from White Castle to fucking the best Chinese restaurant you've ever
Castle. Those are so gross.
had. I don't know, something about them. When you're drunk, there's something
Nasty.
about them.
Is there really?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been that drunk.
We
No,
have,
for me, when I get the yens, I'm gonna say what I want my Fall River Chinese food.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah, Fall River Chinese is a little different if you remember the noodles, those nice crunchy noodles like a chow mein sandwich.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I want, a chow mein sandwich or
Not
some
only-
gagas.
and what in a grinder, right?
A grinder? You want a
Grinder.
coffee cabinet as well?
Got a grinder. In Atlantic City, there was we just went when I went to go visit my dad not too long ago, about 5-6 years ago, before I moved to the West Coast. What's the famous cheesesteak place right on the corner?
You talking about? Well, there's the famous cheesesteak place. You talking about White House?
The White House.
White House, which
White
is
House.
the famous sandwich shop.
That's the one,
yeah.
right? So the White House. My dad took us there, and we had to wait in line for a little bit. That's how fucking good this place is. It
Oh
was
yeah.
phenomenal. I haven't had it in years, since we lived back in Brigantine. But that's one thing we wanted for not, And I moved from one like Miami to like Atlantic City to then like to Vegas. So I've had like I'm ruined as far as like food and service.
True. And there is good food to be at. I'll tell you one thing that was crazy about, like, I've been to Miami. I love Miami.
Yeah, Miami's great.
Miami's fantastic. I love
Not to
South
live.
Beach.
Absolutely.
I love South Beach, and I love all the flesh that's on parade.
You have no idea.
It's this. Oh yes, I do.
Oh my God.
Oh, I do.
Your
I
number
have
one thing is like,
every idea.
should I look at this beautiful Brazilian blonde, or should I look at this like crazy like fight that's going on or something? Like there's always something happening.
And they're in a mini skirt and a low cut top, and that's just the guys. And it's it's fantastic. No, I love all my rainbow friends, and
Hell
I
yeah.
just see 10 tons of fabulous. But I love to what people watch. People watching is fun.
Yeah.
And I think the world is based. The most funny in the world is on observational humor, and I grew up, of course, in the Northeast and in Rhode Island and all of that. So like the first time I went to New York, I didn't realize you had to merge onto the sidewalk when you walked out of a building.
Yep.
It's kind of crazy. So they're like, and even the bums look stylish. I don't know how they
true.
manage that.
They have scarves, like really nice scarf,
Right,
right?
yeah, and it
Wow.
was crazy. So and then you go into some place like New Orleans. In New Orleans, they don't move like that
It's
fast.
hot. It's hot in New Orleans.
It's hot.
Sticky.
They're full
It's
because they
dirtier.
ate well.
Yeah.
They ate like alligators and shrimp
Mhm.
and shit
Yep.
and crawfish, and then and they're drunk a little. They're buzzed.
And they're
So,
dancing.
and so they stroll. It's hot and they're full and they got a little swerve on. So, they're just kind of strolling. Plus, there's so much great music all over
Oh,
New Orleans on the street
everywhere.
corners and the bars. So you can, you want to stroll slowly so you can savor it and enjoy it. And I see a lot of people doing that. And then you go to like someplace like Miami, you got a little salsa in your step, there's lots of flesh.
Yeah.
And everybody is just like kind of like, everything's smells like coconuts, and it's just
Coconuts,
like
mangoes, and everybody
it
has a big
smells like,
butt.
and everybody's all slick and smelling like coconuts.
Yep.
And then you go out to LA where they're all looking at themselves in the reflection because it's very CNBC, and there isn't a building that's any more than 20 years old anywhere near you,
It's a
and
little bit
all
like that in
stuff.
Miami too, just a little
And then
bit.
you go to Atlantic City and it looks like The Walking Dead.
Because you got the Taj Mahal and then a crack house. And then
and I was sitting, I remember I was talking to my partner, shout out to Rob. He was my partner for years, and he's a terrific EMT and very dedicated individual. And we both learned a lot from each other. And we were sitting at this light, and I looked at him and I said, I have been looking at people all over the world, people watching. And these people are like creeping Jesus. I've never seen anything quite this bad. Because they look like The Walking Dead. They look like zombies, and they're all just like, must go to the casino. And I think the Atlantic City that I thought of before I actually went to Atlantic City, what I'd heard of Atlantic City, because on the boardwalk in Atlantic City,
you think it's like that.
You think it's like that. You see these commercials for casinos, and people are all dressed up, and they look sexy.
They're
and
all throwing
they're
dice, like,
shooting
oh, we're
dice.
winning,
Yeah, and she's got her boo-boos out, and she's
love that.
yeah,
Love that.
and he's in, and everybody looks. All the guys look like Pitbull.
Blow on that, baby. There you go.
I love Pitbull. I think he's fantastic. He's a lot of fun. You know why I love him? Because I love the way he dresses.
Mhm.
He dresses like he's the driver of the getaway car in a cologne heist.
For sure.
And all you have to do to like do Pitbull is just have to shriek in Spanish over some kind of like,
an already made song, like a song that's already established, and then all you have to do is
Guacamole!
Dolly. And then his name is Armando. He went to Coral Park. He's not like, I don't think that he went to Coral Park High. Like, he just I don't see him as
I have
Pitbull.
heard he does put a lot back into his community, and that's
Oh,
awesome to hear.
bless
But
him.
yeah, so like, but you got that whole like, it's like Pitbull meets Miami Vice kind of thing, And
I like to do like the open shirts with the sports coat. I'm all about that.
it's, and
It's
you
hot,
gotta
dude.
you gotta wear your huaraches with no socks.
Hell yeah. How do you know about
you
Huaraches?
get your huaraches on. Yeah.
Huarache.
And
No
if they're the real ones, they have the truck tire on the bottom.
That's
It's a tire
right.
tread.
That's right.
That's real huaraches. And these
Damn.
and the old ones I had a pair years ago. They used to like kind of like creak and squeak when you walk. The leather with like
yeah.
And
But they look so cool.
But yeah, wherever you go, everybody's a little different, and it's fun to see that, and I love Miami because of its heat.
I really do too. Yeah, and the breeze. The fact that there's here in Vegas, it's just an oven. You just walk out, and if there's shade, then there's respite. If there's no shade, you're on Mars.
Yeah,
and it could be 150 degrees here, and then you move 2 feet, and now it's 70 because it's shade based. So it's literally you're like a lizard going from place to place. Trying to like
lizard.
trying to find respite, try to find a little bit of just away from the sun. And you find yourself, especially these months, which I don't understand why the concert season cannot happen like that here. Because, for example, we just had EDC, right? Electric Daisy Carnival in Las Vegas. I'm a big, not a EDM person. I'm a drum and bass person, very specific type of electronic music. And
I was born in the 60s. I haven't a fucking clue what you're
I
talking
consider,
about.
well, if I played from, you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, a very specific type of EDM. No, more like much faster. Anyway,
Okay.
That is to me mindless and like very boring. It has to be very interesting for me to want to do that, or it has to be very fucked up and we're all having a good time. However, Electric Daisy Carnival
Can't
came
we just
here
put on some Santana and I'll be friends?
last week. See, you are a hippie. So
I might be.
my sister-in-law is in the medical field here, and they offered her an enormous amount of money for her to go out to work the medical tent at EDC. We're talking about 100,000 people. Ravers from across the world are coming to the Electric Daisy Carnival that has like a humongous, everything's lit up. Everything that you're thinking about when I say Electric Daisy Carnival. At the same time, these people are taking massive amounts of drugs.
MDMA, yeah, it's all in there.
And beyond. There's a new kind of horse tranquilizer that's not ketamine. It's something else. And not to mention we're closer to the southern border where fentanyl and things might be coming out. So, right, it's a shit show. She has said,
shit show.
People
sure.
have. She's never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
Girls were like ravers were wearing Depends, like and then there was
Oh my.
blood, pee, poop,
That's a lot of biohazard.
like having a
noise.
lot of like a full pamper, and then they would be sick, they would be dehydrated, they're not drinking water, it's 100 degrees out. So could you imagine?
Take MDMA and you don't drink water, you're in
Come on.
trouble.
But also, like, wake the fuck up. Like, first of all, you're not a real, to me, and I made this point the other day, you're not a real music fan. You're just a fucking poser. If you take that much drugs, you're gonna get stupid sick and you're gonna miss all the music. So you're not really a music fan. What you are is a drug fan, right?
Right.
So you use that as a vessel to take your drugs, and I get it. Sure, I'm not better than anybody else. I did that as well, but I'm also a music fan where I also didn't take 45 pills to go see, like, so then I have to die in front of the band and never hear it. That doesn't make
Right.
sense to me, right?
Well, I remember all the Grateful Dead shows I went to. They've all blended into one in my head.
Right. It's
But
just
I
morphed.
do remember elements of most of them.
I heard the best places to get whatever you want was the Grateful Dead parking lot
Oh yeah.
and the Fish parking lot. And then
I couldn't get behind Fish, and it's no
neither.
disrespect to Trey and the gang because
They're
they're
awesome.
very talented
It's
individuals.
not my cup of tea. Yeah.
My thing is that I think that Fish was almost engineered economically to take the place of the Grateful Dead,
Of course.
because all of a sudden, I want to say hundreds of thousands of people who had their only impetus was to follow this band all of a sudden had nowhere to go, so
Right.
somebody had to pick up that commercial.
There was a revenue
torch.
stream. There was a vacuum in the
Correct.
market, and they had to let's get some really great people to try to do that.
And as
Yeah,
a
I
result,
agree.
and this is very controversial, as a result, I have never seen the other ones, Fish, Dark Star Orchestra, or any of that stuff. No disrespect to all of the talented people involved. The last show I saw was 92 in Boston Garden, the Grateful Dead with Jerry.
Hmm.
And I would like that to be my last live Grateful Dead experience because
Awesome.
they were intact and Jerry was still around, and that's really the memory I have.
Yeah, and it
I
should
got
be.
to see him live.
It should be the one that you choose.
Yeah.
And not some recreation. Like, I love Sublime, right? But Sublime cannot. Bradley Nowell died in 1994. Sublime cannot be the same, but yet they continue with the same name, Sublime, with another singer. I'm never going to go see them because I never want to taint I never saw them live, and that's one of
Right.
my horrible decisions. Or I just couldn't get to the West Coast at that point.
I
But
never saw Motorhead live, and I
oh
always wanted
shit,
to.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
saw
And
Motorhead.
now look, everybody's gone.
I know, and you feel it's a despair that you've never felt because you don't know these people, but they've
No.
changed. They've changed your life in exponential ways, especially some of the bands that got me through my angsty years. For sure. So
I think I got to make it a point to see Iron Maiden before Bruce loses it.
some of these people, think about it this way: you were born in the '60s, right?
I
I was born in the last part of the '70s. However, some of the people that I like for example, my favorite band, Tool. These people, Maynard James Keenan's 55 years old.
Sure.
The drummer's 60 years old. How much longer can you rock that fucking hard? I got to make sure to take advantage of them as much as possible. So
I'm 55 and
so
I'm
when you
from
say
a rock band, and I'm not ready to lay down
I'm
yet.
not ready. I'm not
I
ready.
am
I'll get
not
up
re- I've
tonight.
got rock and blues band. I'm not ready to lay down yet.
Fuck yeah.
Well, and we lost Tina Turner.
Yeah,
We're
today.
live, so I can say today. Yeah, we lost
Yeah.
Tina Turner. What a life well lived, and an
Unbelievable.
amazing talent, and an inspirational story. She overcame a lot, from poverty to domestic abuse and everything, and she just killed it. My band does Nutbush City Limits, which I think is a fun song to sing. They call it Nutbush. Yeah. Oh yeah. Nutbush City Limits.
Fuck yeah.
25 is the speed limit. It's a fun song to sing, and every time I sing it, I'm always disappointed that I'm not wearing something with fringe.
I know.
just
Calls for it, doesn't it? Some
it really
frilly-
does.
Yeah.
And Tina had the legs. I do not.
She killed it. Yeah,
She did. She
was
was
excellent.
amazing. What a life.
And
well
Angela
lived.
Bassett killed it too.
She absolutely did. And well deserving of all the Oscar nods there.
Absolutely.
And everything. Man, I want arms like Angela Bassett.
Oh, she works it.
She is tight as
Skin is
shit.
perfect. Did you see her in the last Wakanda Forever? She was just like, her body
She
is amazing.
Just tuned up.
Yeah.
That is one glorious woman.
Yeah, she is. She really is.
And I, you know what's funny? I don't have a problem saying. I don't. Some people are like, "Well, do you like women?" I'm like, No, but it's not like that. But she is a glorious woman. And when you see a woman like that, you're like, "Man, I wish I could just present that way."
I have zero qualms in saying that guy's a fucking good looking guy. I even told my wife, I'm like, dude, you should check this out. This guy's really good looking. Are you kidding me?
So what you're saying is you get the whole Jason Momoa thing.
Yeah, go for it. I mean, I'm a human and you're a human. If we
So-
were together
let me
and you
ask
had a
you-
desire, how the fuck can I stop you from having that desire? It's
Childhood crushes. Who are your childhood crushes?
my
I'm gonna
first
judge you.
first crush ever
Yes.
was my first. I vividly and to this day, a 1985 movie called Mannequin with Kim Cattrall.
Oh yeah. Hollywood.
It was Hollywood. No, it was. You got it. It was. It was Kim Cattrall with those green eyes and the way she looked and the way I don't know what it was, but I was smitten. I was dead.
Also an everlasting, formidable, gorgeous gal.
Gorgeous gal, no matter what.
No matter what.
No matter how old she
And
got, and
she's still killing it.
but if I had my choice, it would be her in 1985 with that bubbly personality. I don't know, something about that. And then later on, it was like a combination of Jennifer Connelly. Jennifer Connelly.
Now,
was a big
did you feel a little guilty watching Labyrinth?
Yeah.
Did you feel a little dirty?
Yeah, a little bit.
A little dirty.
A little
yeah.
bit. But that was
Yeah.
also back in the day where I felt a little dirty later on. But
Okay,
seeing
yeah.
Labyrinth at that point, I was like, my gosh, she's so beautiful. You
But
know?
then again, at the time you're seeing Labyrinth, you're probably more of a peer age anyway, so it wasn't too really dirty.
Right. But now, you see things like, I don't know,
And that was such a cool movie with all the Muppets and David Bowie's
David
bulge.
Bowie and the balls.
There was the bulge.
Yeah, but also
There was a whole lot of David Bowie.
Oh yeah, that was a
on
lot of happening
display.
there. Oh yeah, I'm not sure if he put a sock in there or whatever, but
That
was real
I
shit.
don't think it's polite to ask.
well, he was a tall, lanky guy, so he probably had a.
There you go.
humongous
Let's go
penis.
right full circle. Yeah, he was a tall, lanky guy. I think we all know what was going on.
Look, a great-looking guy, amazing face that could probably never be replicated. Or
One of my
he
first
was
crushes, Steve
androgynous.
Landesberg.
Who's that?
He was Dietrich on Barney Miller.
Oh wow,
And if anybody is left listening to us, they're just going to turn it off now.
this chick likes some weird shit.
Well, no, I liked him because he was kind of funny, and I was a kid,
Mhm.
and I thought he was cool. Him and Randolph Mantouche from Emergency.
Wow,
Yeah, I'm old.
Jesus,
It's okay.
I get it.
Yeah, but I'd say modern day. Let's say like who gives me the hot?
Yeah, let's bring it. Let's bring it modern day.
Let's bring it modern
Not Jason
day.
Momoa. We know.
I always tease about Jason Momoa. You know who was really sexy was the guy in Highlander, not the movie with Jason with what's his name, Christopher Lambert, where he talks like Peter Lorre.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he talks just like Peter Lorre.
Because he has like an accent.
the French accent. Yeah,
Yeah, he was also
and-
Raiden in Mortal Kombat.
right. Yeah,
Mhm.
like, what are you looking for? Some piece of ass.
Yeah.
He does. He sounds just like Peter Lorre, and I can't
I'm
get
like,
over that.
where the fuck have you?
I'm
from?
talking about Adrian
Remember?
Paul, the guy who played Highlander in the series. Oh yes,
I got you.
break me off a piece of that.
Yeah.
David Duchovny not safe in my presence, and very unsafe. Very, very, very unsafe.
Are we talking about this guy?
What are you gonna show me? Yes, but when he was on Highlander, he looked a lot
This guy?
like a young Sean Connery. That middle picture to the right. Look at the young Sean Connery. Do you see it?
Yeah, no, in the eyes for sure, in the mouth.
Yeah. See
Yeah.
that?
No, then you got
I'm all the fuck about that.
yeah. So you like the God, what was that fucking guy's name that we all make
Oh,
fun
and
of
he's like
now?
really tall too. He's like 6'3", 6'4", or something. I don't know why at 5'2" I feel the need to do that, but I just want to find shit like that and climb it for Portugal.
Hey, put your fucking pole on it.
I am.
This is my flag.
Yeah, I am planning a flag for sure.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, I love Adrian. But I think I'm trying to think of the new stuff. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really compelling. David Duchovny will always have a special place for me.
Yeah. Plus, he was that spooky guy on TV too. Like
He was that spooky guy on TV, and Mulder Believed. But I loved him also in Californication. He was a cad, but he was great.
Yeah, great.
What a
show.
great show.
Oh yeah.
Runkle.
Well,
one of the cornerstone characters.
let's see. Do we have anybody else left here? No. All messages are clear. I think that I think this is a good spot to kind of end it for the evening. Now that we've done about two like hours that I didn't even feel. I feel like I'm
Yeah,
talking to a
right.
family
Well,
member
you
for
know,
real.
it's we're like bookends and old friends. That's how
I
it
love it.
goes.
I love how we
Yeah.
just completely went into that. And
If you come up to Brigantine and you don't look me up, we're not gonna be friends
oh,
anymore.
I'm definitely doing that. I have friends in South Philly, so
Yes,
sometime over
yes,
there.
yes. You
Yeah, I
must, you must,
definitely,
you must.
absolutely. And I don't want this to be the end. So whenever you have maybe
It will
I don't
never
know,
be the end.
anything new to share, come on the show. Make sure to
And you too.
thank you. Yeah, I
And
appreciate
same.
that. And guys, look out for me being on that podcast, the Macabre World podcast. It's going to drop tomorrow around midnight, 9 o'clock for people on the West Coast. And
Yes.
follow her everywhere, right? So on the on the bottom scroll bar, there's the darkerartstudio.com that gives you a link to her podcast, The Macabre World, also her bone jewelry and the book. So make sure to look at that. I will definitely make some smaller kind of content out of this where we can do some shorts and kind of get a little bit of a broader look for both of us. I think we had an awesome conversation, and a lot of future content can come from this.
Absolutely.
Who's totally fuckable, Kelly?
Right. Which one of us is she talking about? Maybe she's talking
You
about
talking
both.
about Rocky?
Maybe she's talking about you.
Ah, maybe.
It's the voice.
Come on now. Again, she's talking about yourself. But yeah, if you think I think she's talking about the guy from Highlander, who's also totally
Oh,
fuckable.
she's
That was a delayed
she
podcast.
was also like in on the whole like Jason Momoa thing. I think Kelly is a woman of distinctive choice.
Oh hell yeah.
Absolutely.
I know Kelly well, and she is very, very much. She has really good.
She's got great taste.
Great taste. She'd fuck everything you'd fuck, which is wonderful.
That's fair. That's tag team.
You guys
Kelly.
got to get together.
I'm ready.
Yeah,
I'm ready.
All right. Well, another thing we can do also in the future is kind of get other people from my podcast group also. If you ever want to do something that's not Midnight Media, we can all get together and kind of talk.
Absolutely.
And have in this format, 5 or 6 of us together. I think that'll be fun.
I'm a wingnut on a panel. I'm ready.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you guys for being here along with Rocky and myself. It's been a quick 2 hours, but we're going to do this again. Thank you so much for being here with me, and I'll see you really soon, Rocky.
And thank you for having me. And
I
thanks,
appreciate
guys.
you.
It was great to meet y'all.
You guys are amazing. Thank you all for the participation, and we'll catch you next time. Later.